It's like Midcoast
Oh, entrepreneurs. Yeah, I saw that.
Dude, it's such terrible production.
I don't think that's the point of their.
I know, but it's like
podcast.
it doesn't matter. Like I'm not talking. You got to have like everything perfect, but like buy a
God knows I don't. But
buy a microphone. You know what I mean? Like it's like they're talking into their computer mic, and I'm like, bro, if my thing is like with production value, it has to be good enough so you're not distracted by the production value.
Sure.
So you can hear the content. You know what I mean? Because if you can't even pay attention to the content because it's so bad.
Well, that's what I've been trying to figure out with this. It's like, it's kind of busy back here. There's a lot of stuff going on. Is it too much? Yeah.
You know what I really like video wise is how Sean Ryan does his, where it's like dark around the edges.
Oh, right.
And that's like a really easy, like even photo editing is just like a touch of vignette. Is that pronounced right?
I don't know. Vignette.
Vignette.
Yeah. Yes.
Nice. And it just like focuses. It's like you don't even notice it, but it focuses.
Right. So you're gonna want that 6 inches. There you go. That's it. I know it's a little like unless you're used to like
6 inches
microphone. Yeah.
Dude.
I love it. Yeah.
This is gonna be.
I know it's a little like hard.
We need this.
Another table.
We need one table.
Hold on.
I think right because if you don't want to move this every time you take a drink or whatever you're drinking, and then you're doing like this little awkward thing under the.
Maybe shift one stool.
I don't know. Like I'm not telling you have to. I'm just saying.
Well, no. It's just.
I'm trying to be helpful. This is the one. This is the one.
This is number one.
Hey.
Is that?
Well, put that right in the middle.
Well, no, I'm not.
And then you're gonna suffer through. All right. Is this too distracting on your video? Perfect. I'll just like sit more sideways. I'll cross my other leg. This is just this. I'll tell you, if you had a table here though, it's gonna be much better drinking. Like if you
maybe this table
just move it back. Yeah, that would be. Yeah, that actually makes sense.
It's just backwards.
That would make sense.
I just kind of whatever. It's awesome. We're figuring it out.
Figure it out.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm an idea guy, so don't take offense. I'm like, hey, you should.
No, I'm not gonna take offense.
These are killer.
Yeah, aren't they nice? I gotta get some sturdier tables. I had to put a kettlebell.
But that's a good touch. I like the kettlebell.
I was gonna paint it.
No, just leave it.
But. Anyway,
I want to do kettlebells. The idea on the side. I want to do kettlebells. Only I'm going to drill into rocks. I'm just going to measure the weight of rocks, and it's just going to be straight rock, like off the side of the mountain.
Oh my gosh!
Mountaintop kettlebell.
You mean for like a workout?
Whole nother company. I'm gonna start selling them. I do like bent rebar, and then just like have like a wooden, not a wooden handle, but I got to figure out the handle all the way. But the handle that goes down into the rock is going to be
reinforced plastic or
just
something.
Rebar, and then like plasti dip it, because these are kind of soft, but they're pretty hard. You just can't have like rigid. I mean, I don't know. Wear gloves. Don't be a baby.
That's cool. You could do that.
It'd just be fun. It'd just be funny. Like, like, hey, listen, like at the core, what this is you're just picking up a rock. Like, so let's actually pick up rocks.
You should do that. Maine granite.
Yeah.
Kettlebell.
No,
whatever.
Just rock. Not even granite. We're not that fancy.
Oh, okay.
Just like straight rocks, man.
I mean, it probably.
Wrap the handle in duct tape. Actually, in all honesty, just medical tape. Just do the medical tape, because that's what you do with pull-up bars.
Sure.
And then just replace it. Sell them for half the price of everybody else's kettlebells.
Oh my gosh.
Solid.
That's a good idea. You help people have enough rock up on the mountain.
You got plenty of it.
Yeah.
I'm doing I'm not doing it. I'm helping host a men's retreat up there.
Okay.
For a consulting agency.
Okay.
12 guys coming from all around the country.
Really?
I'm doing two days on the mountain.
Is that through the barbershop that you met the guy, or?
No, so it's actually the guy who I bought the land from. It's his son is out in
Okay.
Ohio, and he
Okay.
has a consulting agency.
Okay.
And so when I first met him, well, first like officially met him when I was trying to buy the land, he was out, and so he sat in on the conversation between his dad and I, and I was like, "That's awesome." He's a Christian guy, so I was like, "Yeah, that's like 100% like I've thought about doing stuff like that my whole life anyway." So
Wow.
we stayed in touch, and so the first day on the mountain, they show up one day, and then the second day and third day they're on the mountain, and then they have a fourth day that I won't be there for because I have something else going on. They're gonna do some other stuff, but the first day is the focus is on self-reliance,
Okay.
and so we're gonna carry rock, a rock. Everybody picks a rock, and we're gonna carry it up to where we had the fire that day.
All the way up.
All the way up.
You're gonna make him throw it over the
No.
water.
No. You have to carry the no. So from the edge of the land. So you get up in the woods a little ways.
Oh, okay. Be awesome if they had to hurl it across.
Just throw it up.
Yeah.
No, not that. Once you get out of the car, there's a rock right here. Pick it up. No. So then we're gonna build an altar up there. I'm building an altar up there.
All right.
I don't know how.
How or
what?
Yeah. What are you sacrificing on the altar?
Nothing. It's
Your
just
ego?
It's your ego. Yeah. It's just essentially like it's the idea of that is the sacrifice.
This
right?
is it sounds like Bohemian Grove a little bit.
Hey man,
The what is it called?
they've got some weird stuff. I never actually dug into that though. People talk about it, but
uber rich people doing weird things in the woods.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I know.
Yeah.
And then there was the one guy that got out there. I don't know. I heard some guy talking. I don't even remember who it was. We got out there and said, I don't know. He was talking about it, and it was just like everybody was like, "Oh, that's crazy." And I don't even remember what he said.
Oh, it was Alex Jones.
Oh, was it Alex Jones?
Yeah, it was. It was Alex Jones who broke it. Like before, I don't know if he was like completely fringe and hadn't made the news really, and he was out there doing investigative journalism and got footage of the ceremony of what is it? It was like to a giant owl statue, and you cast your cares on the statue.
Same demons, different day.
Kinda an interesting, something's going on. Yeah, they just in Canada they just launched a new giant statue, the largest statue. I think it's in the largest statue in the Western Hemisphere to a Hindu goddess, and that's in Canada now. So that's brand new. So that's
Canadians are great.
And so it's interesting. It's kind of one of the things that I've always been interested in just living around here is like what public art there is. And they're pretty much, I mean, there's a few things, but pretty much it's just the Civil War Memorial in the Harbor Park.
Yep.
And
that probably goes for like most of the mid-coast towns too. Like I don't think there's much.
So there's this like iconic statue of this man with a giant mustache and a rifle in Civil War getup, and that's our public art. And
it's not even that old because they didn't do it directly after the Civil War.
No, it was an anniversary, one of the anniversaries.
Yeah, like way later.
Right.
Because they did one in Union, and it wasn't even a whole. I don't even think they did the whole statue. But they did that I think in my lifetime. Yeah. Or maybe they just renovated it. I remember they were doing something with it. That's true. It's not a lot of public.
So there's not a lot of public art. I mean, it is New England, so
I was gonna say that's kind of a New England
background. It's Puritan background, no symbols, not a lot of symbols. There are some symbols, but not a ton of symbols, and yet like we see just in those two examples we were talking about, like clearly giant 20-foot tall statues of other things. Yeah. And
it's not a George Floyd statue. I mean, so
that's a new one too.
They're taking it down.
Oh, they are?
Yeah. Well,
which one?
They put one in DC.
Oh, okay.
At least this is what the social medias said this morning.
Okay. I didn't know
that. I didn't even click on it. So I'm doing the headline, repeating a headline and as God's honest truth. seems like it's
Yeah.
good way.
Well, anyway, the reason I guess is all interesting is because like you're going to, in Midcoast Maine, where there aren't a lot of symbols, you're on your own personal property, you're erecting with a bunch of guys in a Christian like retreat context, you're erecting like an altar, which is like a symbol
Yeah.
of sacrifice.
Yeah. I mean, I think
it's not just a symbol of sacrifice; it's a locus of sacrifice.
Yeah.
So
I think that's as far as it goes. It's just like, so my idea of thinking of it really is when the children of Israel came across the Jordan after the 40 years.
Right.
They carried 12 stones across on dry land.
Oh,
They
yeah.
came across the Jordan River. I think it was the Jordan. They came across a river into the promised land before they fought anybody. It was after everybody had died and it was just Joshua and Caleb were the only two of the older generation.
Right.
And so they picked up 12 stones in the river. And then they built a monument or built an altar on the other side. And it literally says, so that when your kids ask you what these stones mean, you can tell them what God did. And so that's as much of that. I mean, it's like not a literal altar. I'm not going to have any sacrifice up there, except for carrying the stones up the mountain. That's a sacrifice.
Sure.
So it's as much as you can recognize that there's a sacrifice to discipline. There's a sacrifice to making yourself better. There's a sacrifice to faith. All of it is sacrificial in that way, in our mind anyway.
Right.
Yeah, I got to give up me to be him, or me to be better me, or however you want to look at it. I mean, the truth of self-discipline and sacrifice is a natural law that God created. So it's not even necessarily that you have to believe the spiritual aspect of a relationship with God to reap the benefits of self-discipline and sacrifice. Right. So, so that's the sacrifice.
Well, it's obvious.
Right. It's obvious. Right. Like, say, I mean, believe in God or not, if you jump off the roof, you fall to the ground. There's a whole lot of natural laws that we see are true.
Yeah.
Whether you believe
that everyone would recognize.
Right. And so the same thing is the benefits of honoring God's law, you still receive a reward for, whether you believe in him or not. Right?
There are all those pylons on top of Mount Batty. I was just up there the other day, and there's just mounds and mounds of rocks that everyone will pick up and
I think I've only been up there once.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. I grew up running up that hill, up on Mountain Street. Running up and then running down, which is way more fun. Yeah. Running down a mountain. As we know.
Until you get old, it hurts your knees more.
Yeah.
Dude, I lost my sunglasses.
I thought I was the one that lost.
You did, but you knew it. I didn't know it.
Oh.
I didn't realize it until like 2 days later, and I was like, where'd my Oakleys go?
Oh my God.
And so I've been up there like 4 or 5 times.
Wait, you lost them the same day? Are you serious?
Same day.
Oh, fun.
I had, when I wiped out near the bottom of the mountain, I thought that's where it was.
Yeah.
But I had my pistol on me. So I was like, I ate it pretty hard.
Yeah.
And I got up and I like checked my pistol belt. And I was like, okay, like I got all my stuff, but I forgot to check my glasses.
Right.
So
just for anyone who would want context, it's Zach owns a piece of property up on the mountain. What town? Warren.
And it's weird because we went up from Union. Right. Because my land starts at the Warren line.
Right. But you have to get to it. There's a right away from Union to Warren. And what's the name of the mountain? Pleasant Mountain. And anyway, coming down, we just kind of ran all the way down about as fast as we could. And I definitely wiped out and lost my glasses.
It was funny because it was like Andrew was like there at the top waiting, and we were like making sure the fire's out, and we looked down and you're like already starting to run.
Yeah. That's right.
I was like, why is John running?
Yeah. I love running.
We just started running. We didn't even question it.
I've always loved running down.
Let's go.
And as a kid, I used to run down Mount Batty, and there's certain spots you can literally not run down it because it goes like this.
It's tough.
Yeah, I always go on one of the back sides up the mountain.
I did when I signed up for that ultra marathon on top of the mountain.
Oh, right.
Years ago.
Yeah.
I didn't do it.
Right.
But I trained for probably 2 months, and I was doing like 12 miles up there.
Were you running that trail?
Well, I ran probably half the trails, but I usually didn't do many of them once. I was trying to get the miles. I would go out the carriage trail, so just the road,
Yeah.
and then I would pick a different trail every time to
Right.
like complete the miles.
Okay.
But I usually started from Camden, so I was running further in. I don't know what the other hill is that you get back down in there. I think it's all the way into Lincolnville.
Yeah.
There's another hill that you can go up.
Okay.
That was probably the most fun I had. Was I would start here, and then I would be 5 miles into a run before I got to the hill, and it wasn't like batty. I did that one a couple times, and I'd start with that and just go up it like fast walk as much as I could.
Yeah.
And then run from the top of the mountain.
There are two spots on the backside trail. I don't know the name of the trail, but the one from Mountain Street, and you mean you could not run it just because it's just sheer.
Yeah. Well, and the best way to do that coming down a mountain is off of the trail anyway, because then you've got some leaves, and you're like, when you're coming down those trails, it's all rocks.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather slide a little bit, and grab some trees. It's like, if you're running down those trails, you're like rock hopping. You're not running.
I kind of like that, especially right at the bottom quarter of the trail. It is all rocks, and you can kind of just jump, but it's not steep anymore at that point.
Oh, we do. When I hike ragged in the winter, I didn't do it this winter. It's the first time in 5 years. I wait for like the worst weather day. Yeah. And then I do a sunrise hike up ragged.
Oh, nice.
And coming down is the best part, because you're wearing snow gear, and I do it in the snow. So you're like sliding down the mountain. Yeah. And I've only got hurt once, and it wasn't too bad. It's just like I smoked rock when I was sliding. It was like I bruised my tailbone pretty hard, but it's all steep enough to slide, but not too, like, you're not going down over the cliffs. Right. Obviously, you're staying between the two cliffs on ragged, so it's always fun. The best one, the first year we did that might have been the best year. It was that first really cold day. It was -6, and it was perfectly clear, and we got up there and we could just see like the whole ocean was covered in smoke. Yeah. Because it was so much colder than the water temperature, so it was just fog. Right. And we got to watch the sun come up through that cloud, and it was really cool. And then the next year was rain and snow, and that was the hardest one, because we had a foot of snow, and then it was like rainy sleet, and we went up, and so like even going up or down, there was so much snow that you were working your legs, like on the front and the back of the leg. Sure. So it was like when I got back to the truck, I was like, my legs were cramping up both sides. And then the third year was, I think it was the third or fourth year was that really cold year, whereas it was -40 on top of the mountain. And it was like, we got up, it was with the wind chill. We got up on top of the mountain, and it's the only time in Maine I've ever had that experience where it's like we got up and we got into the wind, and we could see the ocean, and then we usually drink a cup of coffee right on top, but the wind was so bad, we were up there for 30 seconds to a minute. And I was like, I started to realize, like, I had Josiah Burgess was with me, and he's like, dude, I'm really cold. And I was like, all right, let's get back down. And we started to go back down into the valley. We were off the trail, and we hit a cliff right away. It's because we took the wrong way. I took the wrong way. Right. And we're trying to get into the woods. And it was the only time in my life that I've been like almost panicking because it's so cold. So I was like, we got to get out of the wind right now. And I'm like, should we just jump off this cliff? Because it's only like 10 feet and there's snow. And we got back down, and all of the skin on my face died. Like I lost a whole layer of skin. I had
3 years ago?
I think it was 2 years ago.
Really? I don't remember seeing you.
It wasn't like I didn't have frostbite, but it killed the top layer of my skin. It's like a sunburn. Oh, okay. Because of the cold wind. Oh, okay. And it was crazy. We got down, and like my mustache was like an icicle all the way across, and Josiah's eyelashes had like it was really funny. I have a picture from it.
That's awesome.
Like, that was the only time I've ever been like, this is like, because most of the time you get cold slow. Sure. But because it was so cold, and it was -40 degrees with the wind chill, through just like right through. Yeah. It was pretty crazy. So we got down. We ended up just circling that little cliff, and we got down below there, and we were tucked away out of the wind. Had a cup of coffee, and then slid down the mountain.
Jeez.
It was good to get back to the truck. I left my truck running the whole time.
Okay.
I was like, I know it's gonna be cold. I'm gonna be back in 2 hours.
Right.
It's worth the 0 miles per gallon for the warm truck.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious. Yeah. So you obviously own the barbershop. How many years now has it been that you?
This is our third summer.
Okay.
So I don't know what that even means. So we opened in January, so that's our third year.
Yeah.
Third summer.
And are you liking
Love it.
Are you liking like what you're seeing in terms of like growth and that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I mean, the first year, I kind of really count it as our second year in a way, because the first year I was just on my own.
Sure.
And I wasn't, this is not good advice for anybody that opens a business, but I knew, just because I had been a barber for 5 years already, that I could make money in 3 days a week. Right. And so I just projected it out, and I was willing to get another job, but I didn't want to be in there more than 3 days a week, because it just would throw off the balance of the ministry stuff and time with the kids and stuff like that.
Right.
So the first year I started at 4 days a week, and then I dropped to 3. And so I did the whole first year. Aiden joined me like about a month shy of the first year.
Yeah.
And so it was almost, like I said, almost exactly started that second year with him on board. So this summer, it's a hard benchmark in the summertime because it's just so busy.
Right.
Like you have so many people in this town that are, that live here for 6 months or less. So summertime is when you get everybody, and numbers in a barbershop, only take 5 people in a day to take you from a good day to a like
great
busy day.
Yeah, sure.
You're turning people away. So it's a small number.
Right.
That makes the difference. So the benchmark for me really is like April, May timeframes, like right before that.
Right.
January is not a good benchmark. It's kind of anywhere just in there. Like, how do you do from January to April?
Right.
That's your base. Yeah.
You've got
everybody grows their hair, like half the people.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay. Well, you think about it, because like everybody gets their hair cut for Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, and everybody wants to put a suit on.
Themselves go.
Yeah, they're like January 2nd, you might as well close, for at least 2 weeks.
Interesting.
But we did good. We did well through the winter this year. We're seeing the normal rise, and it's cool too, because we're having a lot more people from the surrounding towns who are here year round, even through the summer. Because I try to ask if it's somebody new or I don't recognize them. I'm like, oh, is this your first time in the shop? And then ask how they heard about the shop. And so the biggest metric that I've found, not metric, but the biggest contributor as a beginning small business is how many reviews you have on Google.
Oh, okay.
Because it dictates where you fall if they do any keywords.
Right.
Anything to do with barbershop, it's how many reviews you have are going to dictate where you fall. So we've made a push for that, and it makes a huge difference. And people notice that you have good reviews. I tell people, I put up a QR code. Aiden figured out how to do the QR code thing. So I printed it off and I put it over there, and I said, when people are leaving, I try to say it at least 4 or 5 times a day, but I don't say it to everybody. I'm like, hey, if you feel like leaving us a review, scan that. I'll take you to it, but only if it's a good review. We take feedback in person, but praise in public. So like, leave us a good review.
That's a good way to skew it for yourself.
So it's good. But I mean, like with cutting hair, it's like so much can get lost in translation. Like, I don't claim to be the best barber in the world.
Right.
It's just like, I try to make people happy. And sometimes, I mean, a lot of it is, I think more than half of the job is making sure you're saying the same thing as the person that's sitting in the chair. Because you just lose it in translation. Like if you say, I want a short haircut.
Right. That could mean different things.
I can go bald, like I can shave your head so there's no hair. So that's short to me. What do you mean by short? So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like someone coming in here and saying, oh, this is just a tiny diamond. I'm like, sweetie, that's not a tiny diamond. That's a substantial diamond. It's maybe smaller than your, girlfriend next door, but it's not,
Yeah. Right. It's all perspective.
It is,
and so it's a lot more of it's communication, and that's where we do well, is we make sure the consultation with the person sitting in the chair is a good conversation about what are you actually saying and what do you want. We're not going to go too short. I'd rather leave somebody's hair a little bit too long than go too short.
Right.
So
that's what Eric always used to say. The barber that I went to, started with when I was a kid, he would say, I can't add any back on.
Right.
That's what he would say.
Right.
That's what he would.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I was terrified of him as a kid. I think I was probably 5 or 6, and I went to his barbershop, and I always had his second barber, Julie.
Yeah.
And she was I had a big crush on her as a little boy, and so I always liked to sit with her. And then one time she wasn't there, and they didn't tell me because they knew I'd freak out. So I sat down in the chair, and then Eric came out of the back room, and I just leapt out of the chair.
I had a kid do that when I was working at Eric's. It was like the worst. It was the worst, man. It was probably the worst kid experience I had, because
what did he do?
He didn't want a haircut. And mom and dad told him to get a haircut.
Yeah.
And he was
that's awesome.
He jumped up out of the chair, and dad's just like yelling at him, like, get back in the chair, get back in the chair. And he runs out the door.
Right.
And so there was like a rug, an entryway rug, and mom turns to grab him and trips over the rug and almost falls down, but runs into the doorpost with her shoulder, and then like goes to one knee. And dad jumps over mom and goes out in the road with the door open. And his son's standing with like 1 foot in the intersection.
Oh my God.
And he's yelling at him, going, you get back in there, you're getting a haircut. And the kid's like 5. And so they come back in, mom gets up, she's fine.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe we ought to try a different day.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, that was years ago. That kid comes to the barbershop now. My barbershop.
Right.
So I think a lot of it is you have to, that's one of my favorite things to do. Like, is develop a good relationship with a kid who's scared of the barbershop, and like come in and be like, dude, let's figure this out. Let's
kind of a scary experience. I don't know people probably forget, but it is kind of a scary experience to get part of your body cut off.
Right.
It's kind of, it makes sense why they made like a horror musical out of the whole concept or whatever. But yeah, it's it is terrifying. Well, so I don't think it was the same time, but after that incident where I leapt out of the barber's chair, my brother brought me back to the same barber shop. And I don't know if it was Julie. I think it was actually Julie who did it. And I don't think I've ever forgiven her for it. But Jeff, my brother, convinced Julie to cut notches into my eyebrows. And so I was probably like maybe 6 around that age. And then they cut notches into my eyebrows. So whatever. I don't know.
I won't do that. I won't.
You won't. You draw the line there.
Well, it depends on how much money. I guess. there's a price.
You have a price. You have a price.
I mean, like, I don't.
You can be bought.
Yeah. For sure. As long as the person sitting in the chair is smaller than I am.
Yeah. That's funny. That's funny. Oh my gosh.
I told the kid I'd shave my head bald the other day if he did. And he thought about it, and I was like, "Oh, whoops." He still said no. Dad was sitting in the waiting room, so he backed out. But he had long hair.
Yeah.
And so it's good though. I mean, that's the fun of it, is really developing the relationship with the people in town. I have kids. Like, right. I had a kid in yesterday who's going into his junior year, and I've been cutting his hair since he was like 8. Right. 8 or 9, so like he went from being a little kid to he's bigger than I am now.
Yeah. So you've owned Mechanic Street Barbershop for 3 seasons, but
I was at Eric's for 2 years.
Okay. So it's been 5 years.
5 years in town. And then I did 2 years in like just around. I was at a barbershop in Belfast.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And and then I cut hair at a brewery on Thursday nights for a while. Not sure if that's legal, but I just sat up in the corner and people.
Did you really?
Yeah. I never made real money, but
sure, you're getting fun. Experience.
Yeah, it was
whatever.
Fun. It's fun. It was dark in there, so haircuts probably sucked.
Oh my God.
Everybody was drinking, so nobody cared. That's awesome. I wasn't drinking. I never crossed that line.
Sure.
I wasn't drinking.
No, drinking and cutting hair.
Drinking and cutting hair.
Is that against the law or just stupid?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they've actually made a law for it, but I'm sure. I'm sure if they caught somebody doing it, they'd slap
Slutting
them.
while under the influence.
I think there's a better business practice for that.
Oh my gosh,
But
that's funny. That's interesting.
so that's where I
And then you cut hair in the Army.
Air Force. But
in the Air Force.
I mean, that's where I started.
Yeah.
And it was again surrounding drinking. It was mostly because everybody just spent their money drinking, and then we'd be like, "Oh yeah, we were supposed to get haircuts before we came back."
Oh.
And so I think it was like one night we had like everybody was just shaving their heads, and so I was like, "Oh, let me see if I can do a fade," and it looked pretty good. And so then everybody like it only happened like a handful of times, but I'd cut like 4 or 5 guys' hair like in one night, and it happened probably a handful of times.
Right.
And I was like, I can kind of do that. And then that kind of stuck. But I never had like this dream to be a barber. Is when I got done, I did medical billing when I first got out, or something to do with that. And the story with that was I did well. I was there for almost 5 years, and they were going to put me in a leadership school down in Watertown for like a month to like fast track to senior management or whatever. And I said yes, and I got to about 2 weeks away from going to that, and I was like, man, if I do this, like that's it. Like I'm gonna be
You're gonna be a corporate tool.
And so I demoted myself, moved departments, and quit a month later, and started doing handyman work. I was like, so I did that for like a year.
Yeah.
And then, no, I didn't do that. I went from there and I helped, didn't fully manage, but I was helping at the True Value in Union.
Okay.
And so when Vic was gone, he wanted somebody to be there that was trustworthy. So he was kind of training me to manage it for him while he was gone, because he was starting to do more missions work. So he was going to be gone for a week or two at a time, and wanted somebody there. So I went there, and then I got done with that, and I did handyman work for a while I was figuring out what I wanted to do. I wanted to use my GI Bill. And so I had a year of criminal justice degree that I did when I first got out of the Air Force, and I wasn't going to be a cop anymore. So that was out. And I narrowed it down to being an airline pilot, an electrician, or a barber, because I just thought barbershops were cool. Because my dad had his garage when I was growing up, and because there's so many self-employed family and friends around us, Dad's shop was just where everybody hung out. And so to me, that was a barbershop. You know, I'm like, I'm not a mechanic. Like, I can take stuff apart and put it back together.
Yeah. Just
because I grew up around it, but I'm not inclined like Dad and my brother are. So I can talk. And I was like, I can talk, and I can kind of cut hair. So if I go to school, I'll
put it in a shop.
Yeah, like,
you got it.
There we go. And I never considered the income from it. I just knew it was flexible. I had 4 kids by the time I made that decision. So I was like, I want the flexibility.
Yeah.
And never really thought about how much money I could make. I just knew I could probably pay my bills. And if not, I'd do like carpentry on the side or something like that. And it's funny because the barbershop I have now is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I never, I think that's the first thing that I've ever actually thought about long-term and was able to complete, because I'm really terrible. I'm really great at initial ideas and getting things started. I'm terrible at finishing stuff. And so to see that come to fruition over time, especially through the years of life that I lived, was really exciting. You know, it's cool. I still go in there, excuse me. I still go in there and sit down sometimes. I'm like, dude, this place is sweet. This is exactly what
it's got a great vibe, and it's you know, it's like it says immediately what it is.
Yeah.
It's not a confused space. It's very clear what it is and what it's for.
I had a guy come in, was it yesterday? Yes. Yesterday was Friday. Yesterday. And he's like, I'm back for my annual cut. And I recognized him a little bit. Okay. But he's
have like
from
a
away.
Big beard
No, he's from away.
Oh.
From away. And he's like, yeah. And I liked it when I was here the last time. So I'm back again. And he sits down in the chair and he looks around. And he goes, this place is less political than it was last year. And I was like,
you want some more?
Yeah, yes, please. I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, you took some stuff down, didn't you? And I was like, well, I took the American flag down, if that's what you're talking about.
That's very political.
It's like, that's all the only
Oh my gosh.
quote unquote political thing. And he would, like, we agreed on political stuff. So
Yeah.
he's like, oh, maybe it was just that we had a good conversation last
Right.
time. And I was like, hey,
Right.
well, you're definitely welcome to bring anything up. Like, I'll talk about anything.
Sure.
And I thought that was funny. I was like, well, I did have an Israeli flag hanging up for a while too, so maybe that could be political, but like, that was it. Like, I had 2 flags hanging up. That was it.
Yeah, those 2 flags. I was in where was I? I was in Booth Bay the other day, and Booth Bay Harbor is so cool because it has that little bridge across the harbor. Have you ever been to Booth Bay? Maybe not.
Not spent any time. I've been to the botanical gardens down there.
Oh yeah. No, this is like downtown. And
I did. I've been to the little tugboat. There's a tugboat restaurant down in there.
Yeah, there is. Anyway, so they have a cool feature. I wish Camden would get it, but it would screw everything up. Where you like from
Is
one.
it a dam?
No, it's not a dam. It's a bridge. Damn it. No. So it's a bridge from one side, a footbridge from one side of the harbor to the other. So it would literally take you from Peter Otts to the wharf.
But
like
you go
Lyman
around
Morris.
the harbor, not over
It
the
goes
harbor?
straight it goes straight over.
Wow.
It's super awesome. Yeah, I wish Camden would get it. Anyway, so anyway, I crossed the bridge and I was showing a friend around the area, and we went there's a little Catholic church up the hill that's like right on the water. It's really beautiful. It's actually very similar to Littlefield Memorial Baptist where the view, it just has that beautiful view of the water. Yeah, it's the same. And anyway, but yeah, right across the bridge was not an American flag, not an Israeli flag, an Israeli flag. So it was like cut in half.
Yeah.
And it was like America here and Israel here. And I was like, whoa, that's a flag.
I don't cut flags in half.
You don't cut flags in half? No. Anyway, I thought that was interesting.
I think the colored flags are.
Honestly, I'll probably never do it, but I wanted to put a Vatican flag and a gay pride flag right here, right on the outside. And conclude what you will about what that means, but I wanted to run both of those flags next to each other. And yikes. I think it would be interesting. I like putting ideas, seeing how ideas kind of,
I don't think those work.
Well, you never know. I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know how those melt, man.
It's just fun.
It gets dangerous to put some metals in a melting pot together sometimes.
Yeah. Well, here we are, America.
All
The melting
the other,
pot.
but that would just be like all the other churches in town.
No, it's not. It's not like a
Pride.
sort of like a stupid kind of conversation. It's like it's not like adopting the values of the world or whatever. Blah blah blah. It's more like how do things that seem to be utterly opposed enter into a conversation?
Yeah.
And that's sort of my whole jam.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think where I've kind of landed is when you bring faith into worldview, it's recognizing that if they don't have ears to hear, they're not going to hear. And so we're supposed to just treat people with love anyway.
Right.
That doesn't mean accepting, but like, you're not accepting the lifestyle choices that people make are something that you want in your life. But that goes both ways. Like the way that whoever said person is living, they probably don't want to live like you either. So it's like, as far as it concerns me, be at peace with all people. I'm not going to throw stones. And, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes in an evangelistic way that we make is that we attack sin before we share the gospel. And the gospel is, you can have peace with God. This just occurred to me this morning. I'm studying Romans right now, and Romans 5:1. I can't even remember what it says exactly, but it says that because of Jesus, we have peace with God. And it doesn't say because of Jesus, we have forgiveness. It says because of Jesus, we have peace. Mm-hmm. And it occurred to me that at the core of anything that we can desire in our lives, it starts on the foundation of being at peace with our Creator. And so anything else that we may pile on in life, it's not that things our sin or whatever. Once we start with the foundation, the building blocks of peace with creation, with our creator, we're going to inevitably put things that honor our creator on top of that foundation. So we're attacking the building before we get to the foundation. The good news of Jesus Christ is that you can be at peace with God, and that's the gospel. And so when we look at things that are going on in the world around us, the easy things to see aren't the foundation. It's the color of the siding. It's the window choice. It's the shingles. It's whatever. Judging the appearance. Sure. And that doesn't mean that the appearance is right. There's some things that are wrong and there are some things that are right. Sure. But when you go after that, you forget that the foundation is to be at peace with God through the forgiveness that Jesus Christ gave us, and that's the difference that I think we can get lost on. I can have a great conversation with people I completely disagree with. Yeah. I don't care. Like, that's not my job isn't to convince them that my lifestyle choices are right. My job is as though lifestyle choice is some paragon. Anyway, the notion of lifestyle choice, what the hell, like, that sounds like a concept in a teen girl magazine. Like, what the hell does that even mean? Yeah. It's like, I don't like that. Yeah. That's a strange phrase. Yeah. Lifestyle choice. Right. Yeah. I agree. Isn't that weird? It feels weird. Yeah. I mean, we can, I don't know how you would say it differently, but. Well, no, it's just, I'm not attacking you using that phrase. I'm just like, to me, that concept is dead on arrival. Right. Right. As like an important concept. Yeah. So, I mean, but take the example of building a house again, like only apply it to our society rather than just an individual. Yeah. It's like we've gotten to the point where we want to justify everything as, my truth and my choice and my lifestyle. Sure. And it's not anchored to the fact that there's an eternal consequence for the choices we make in this life. And so when we lighten the mood. Yeah, but people aren't even interested in the concept of eternity. I know, that's the problem. Well, it's a problem or it's not a problem. It's just like, it doesn't even enter into the, people aren't thinking about eternity. Right. That's the problem. That's what I'm saying. I mean, from your viewpoint, I agree, but I guess like viewing it from inside other people's lenses, like in their own minds, like what would cause them to even be interested in that concept of eternity? That's the problem. Well, yeah, I guess. So go ahead. It's the verse that says it's easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the gates of heaven. It doesn't say anything about riches being evil. It's the idea that rich people are so happy where they're at. They're comfortable here. They're comfortable now that they're never going to focus on eternity. That's the problem. Well, what's the parable about storing up treasures in heaven? Yeah, but the parable that precedes that, Luke 12, about the barn, filling your barns, right? Yeah. Luke 12 is about, dude, it's such an American proverb too, like parable, because American. Think about it. So we have 3.8. I can't remember if it's an M or a B, million or billion square feet of storage units in this country. Okay. There's enough room. So this is the way that heated or air conditioned or just in general. Okay. It's the way that I remember it is that there's enough room in storage units for everybody in this country. Yeah. To have a 10 by 10 room. Okay. And that's the square footage of storage units. Okay. So we can store our stuff. So this is George Carlin routine. Dude, it's wild. So the parable in Luke 12 is there's this guy comes to Jesus and he says, and it's funny as a dad, listen to this. He says, tell my brother to give me half of the inheritance. Right. And Jesus says to him, man, who am I? Like, and it's like, I think that like when your boys come together and they're like, Dad, tell him to give me the stuff that's mine or whatever. And it's like, you just picture Jesus being like, I'm here like God incarnate and you want me to just fix this earthly problem. Right. And so then he tells the parable that there was a man who had a plentiful year. Yeah. And he says, I've had a great year. Look at all this stuff I have, but my barns aren't big enough. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to tear down my barns. I'm going to build bigger barns because I have had a good year and I have so much stuff and I need room to store all my stuff. And so he tears down all his barns, builds all his bigger barns, puts all his stuff in there, and then he sits back and he's drinking wine, smoking a cigar, and he's like, "Man, I had a good year." And then God says to him, "Fool, tonight your soul is required of you." You know, and so the idea is just like, what are you doing with your time? You're not focused on forever because you've got so much stuff. And that plays right into, it's easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle, right? So why in Africa are they so willing to talk about eternity? Because they know, or they hope at least, that this isn't as good as it gets. You know, for people that believe in Jesus Christ, this is as close to hell as we'll ever get. But for people who don't believe in Jesus Christ, this is as close to heaven as they'll ever get. This is, you know, like, why would I focus on eternity? If I don't want to believe in that God, I'm going to get what I can get out of this life. I'm going to store up my barns. I'm going to fill up my storage unit full of stuff that I don't even use. I got a key and I check on it twice a year, and I might go get my old roller skates when I want to go roller skating down the boardwalk. But like, I'm going to fill that place full of stuff and feel like I accomplished something, but then still go home at night and not have peace.
So, you know, it's so funny as you're talking, I'm thinking about the trend that sort of ran through popular culture a couple of years ago, which was minimalism. And so
Yeah.
ironically, instead of making a metaphysical move, which would be to something substantially greater than yourself, we made just another physical move, but in the opposite direction.
Yep.
So some people fetishize, you know, having tons of stuff, or having just the right kind of stuff,
Yep.
or having, you know, a great amount, or, you know, large amounts of money, whatever. And then some people flip it and go, well, if I just have the bare minimum, then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And which there is maybe some wisdom in that, in a certain sense, but it almost felt like a style, another stylistic choice, another lifestyle choice, and that's sort of what
It's another grasp at peace.
Right.
Where's your peace come from?
Right.
I mean, to be honest, man, like, I'm a stuff guy. Like, you know, you can break
Yeah, you
most
go into your
people.
barbershop.
Yeah, you can break most people into two categories, right? You got the saver and the spender,
Right.
You know, like, and the spender just means they're a stuff guy, right? Like, I can justify in my head just about any truck I see on Facebook Marketplace.
I love it.
I tried to yesterday. I
Right.
showed my wife this sweet truck, and I was like, listen, 10.5's a little bit high, but this is the one. And she's like, are you serious? She's like, we're in the middle of building an addition on our house, and you want to spend $10,000 on an old truck? And I was like, yes. It's the one.
So, but let me right there though, you know, that seems to me to be kind of like, isn't that exactly the parable though?
It is 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh no. I'm saying,
so
like,
then
it's a struggle every day.
Why though? Why? So this is where, for me, like, you know, you and I don't agree on everything. Like, this is where, for me, so I've had this business for 10 years, and about 10 years. And right at the very beginning, I met with the local, these two guys from DC who came up here, and now they're local, whatever. They run Narrative. I don't know if you have ever heard of them. And they run a bunch of businesses. They own like marijuana shops, and they own a bunch, whatever. Anyway, so and they wanted to turn my business into, or they proposed to turn my business into like multiple locations all the way down like the East Coast. And I don't know whether I don't know if that's just boilerplate, like textbook jewelry store, you know, business plan, or if they saw something in my business that they wanted to replicate,
Right.
or if they saw an opportunity in the market that anybody needed to fill. But anyway, that was their proposal to me. And what it felt like, and I didn't touch it at all, but what it felt like was, hey, let's build bigger barns,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and store more stuff. you know. And I've often thought about, there's a lot of parables that I've often thought about in connection to the particular work that I do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're removing people's body parts, and I'm like literally, you know, taking mined gold and gems, which the Bible talks about a lot. And
There's a couple things mentioned.
I mean, it does talk about it quite a bit. And I'm, you know, and I'm shaping them into desirable objects.
That's what I do with people's faces.
Right. Yeah. And anyway, and then I sell, sometimes I feel like I sell women's vanity back to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, that's the line from Fight Club. You know, when they break into the liposuction factory,
you get the fat,
and they get the fat so they can render the soap with the lye.
Yeah.
And the line I think Tyler Durden says is, you know, we sell women's fat back to them. and in my case, I feel like I sell, and it's not just women, men do it too.
Yeah.
But I sometimes feel like I'm selling vanity back to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they come in with vanity, and I just hand it back to them.
Yeah.
And it's such an interesting business because it's completely superfluous. We don't need to adorn ourselves, and yet we do.
Well, it depends.
You know?
I mean, so really, it's a first world problem, right?
That's not true.
But so here,
every culture has jewelry. Every you know.
So here.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that's a cliche saying. It's a first world problem.
Mm-hmm.
But like you just said, it's every
culture has
whichever
jewelry.
Culture you're going to be in.
Yeah,
so not just jewelry. It's like how we adorn ourselves, whether it's the
clothing,
the brand of shirt, the hat, the shoes, whatever.
Right.
We're going to reach for the best that we can get most of the time in whatever it is. You know, if you can afford a better ring, you're going to get a better ring or a better hat, whatever it is, better gun, better truck, like whatever it is. But if we go back to the foundation of our heart, you know, we separate the sin into the three categories that all sin falls into is lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, and pride of life, right? And so if we look at those and we recognize that in reality, we can only have one throne of our heart, right? So it's like if any of those are the ones that we struggle with, so lust of the flesh, or, you know, for me, it's like lust of the flesh is anything that makes my flesh feel better. And so it can be anything from sex to this type of clothes you wear. So what are you lusting after that's going to make you feel better? So if that's the one that's sitting on your throne of your heart, then that's where it becomes an issue, because that's what you're reaching for to find that peace. So if it is the bigger stone, if it is the bigger truck, if it is the better house, if it is the better shoes, that has the lordship of your heart. And one of the things that we do most wrong most often, even though we claim Jesus Christ as our Savior, He paid for our sins and we receive the righteousness of God because of Jesus.
Yeah,
we
that's
want
a nice
the Savior.
little sentence.
We want the Savior, but we don't want the lordship. And you don't see anybody in the New Testament really calling Jesus Christ our Savior. It's our Lord Jesus Christ. Yeah. And so when He sits properly on the throne of our heart,
or whatever,
right? Yeah. When He's at the top, all of these things are fine. You know, it's just like my example of the truck. There's nothing wrong with getting a truck.
No.
You know, it's just like which order are you doing it in? And I respect my wife a lot because she has so much more financial wisdom than I do, that I like those conversations to us are almost a joke, because like she looks at it as, if I wasn't in your life, you would probably figure out how to buy this. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. Like I could afford a payment right now. Like, I could squeeze another $250 out of my paycheck every month, I would try to figure out a way, because I look at it and I'm like, I can justify 1,000 ways I need this old truck to build something on the mountain, or the fact that it's going to save me money in the long run because I'm going to build one of those someday. It's going to cost more than that. So like if I buy this one now, it's going to save me money. And she's like, no, like we don't need that. And so it's like, it's not that my wife is perfect. It's just the struggle for the throne of her heart is not stuff. And for me, it is. It's a struggle, like where I look at that is like the wisdom, again, the natural laws that God has created. It may not even be a spiritual battle, but He's going to honor His natural law of wisdom with finances, regardless of whether or not you believe in Him. And so that is applicable. We see people all over the place who are wise with money that don't believe in God.
Sure.
Because they do the right thing with money. They don't struggle with stuff. They might struggle with status, like lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. Which one is that? That'd be the pride of life. They want status more than money. They can be good with money. They're not struggling with stuff. They got a good 401k. Doesn't run their life. But what does is who they're brushing elbows with. And they're like, oh, yeah, look at me.
We would call that power.
Right. So anything we look at, I think, whether it is the diamonds, dude, jewelry is beautiful. I mean, I didn't recognize it as much ever in my life, except for coming in here. You started showing me some of those big stones where you can actually see how pretty they are. And I'm like, I saw that on Rescuers, not Down Under, the other one with the mice, when they find that diamond in it's like, I've only seen cartoon diamonds that big.
Disney
like those
diamonds?
Yeah. Like those are beautiful in real life, so.
Yeah. They are pretty.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just like
it's just an interesting like conversation, because the conversation's never been closed for me. I've never found like a settled position for myself, partially because I've always like been like have had like a religious orientation, and read about like St. Francis, whose dad was a cloth merchant, and in I think in Assisi, so this is like northern Italy, and during like some of those amazing periods of time when they're creating absolutely gorgeous fabrics and stuff like that for the first time, with the I think like technological developments, and he's clothed in his father's riches, and he ends up just like stripping down naked.
He's the one that jumped in the prickle bush, right?
Well, he did that later, but like his moment of conversion was when he like said like, I no longer want your value system as my value system, Dad. And he took off all the clothes, and he's naked in the public square because he rejected it. Mm-hmm. Because I think he probably saw the ins and outs of the business, and he saw the ins and outs of what his dad cared about, and also his former life,
right?
Which was basically, to be like a drinker, a lover of many women, and that kind of thing. And then he just, had this like snap. And then, in order to combat the flesh, would eventually throw himself.
So how does that? It's
an extreme example of what we're talking about, and I think like the thing that it struck me always is, with the lives of people who radically dedicate themselves to God, is just that the extremeness with which they're willing to go, or like somebody like Maximilian Kolbe, who's in a concentration camp, and like they're about to shoot another prisoner, and he's like, no, me, like you leave him alone, and then they shoot him, and it's just these extreme, striking, shocking, like violent acts that have always sat with me, in terms of like a real life response to a religious value. Mm-hmm.
So which one, the interesting thing, if you think about that, is how did they come to the conclusion that those values that they were going to uphold were the most important ones?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly how to answer that.
Well, right. I guess that's the when you look at throwing off the luxury of this world, what I always like the therefore in the Bible. It's like, well, what's the therefore? Okay. It's like therefore, so it's always like in the middle of a chapter. And so you have to go back and look at for these people, what got them to that point where they're able to throw off all of the riches, because that's not many people would do that. Or why did they do it? It's to throw off vanity. Okay, well that's a simple answer to it, which is like not hidden and throwing.
He was also rejecting his own father,
right,
by doing it. That's more than vanity. That's pride of life.
Let the dead bury the dead.
Yeah, I mean it's radical,
right? So I think that if we look at a good example, I think of from the Bible is Abraham. Abraham did a similar thing. He didn't leave all his riches behind, but he was set up. He was a Chaldean, which was like they were before the children of Israel were a thing, right? So he's the father of Abraham, and God called him out of where he was and said, "Go into the land that I will show you." And so he had to go without knowing the whole story, and then that's in Genesis chapter 12, I think. And it's not until chapter 15 or 16 you've got all so he's got some major screw ups. But he went initially. So with the small amount of faith that he had, he went. So there was God called, he did something. But not until 15 is it when God calls him out of his tent, says, "Look up at the stars. I will make your children as many as the stars. There's so many that you can't count." And Abraham believed him, and it was counted unto him righteousness.
Sure.
So it's like he went, and it's a funny thing if you look at, to me, is that there was action with smaller amounts of faith, but it never says that Abraham believed God. He went from his lifestyle, from his good life where he had stuff at 75 years old, and went into the desert and left everything behind him except for his wife and his nephew. And I guess there were probably some other people that came with him. It wasn't a big band originally, but faith precedes everything. In order to have any actionable change, faith has to precede everything.
Well, I guess, to you were bringing up America earlier, in terms of Luke 12, and it's like, is America almost the anti-gospel, because it feels like the promises of America are
the American dream.
Yeah, the American dream is almost like you can have your cake and eat it too. You can say you believe in Jesus and apple pie, and then you can have vanity of the vanity and pride of life and all the rest of it. And it's just this, I don't know, this interesting tension. I was talking with a friend of mine, and she was telling me about like what the yuppie kind of American dream is, and in like informing me, and
just letting me know,
well, maybe letting me know what she wants, or like whatever. And at least her version of it was basically you die with 2 million in the stock market and a nice $1 million property, somewhere between like 800,000 and $1 million, whatever property, like in your wherever you're situated, and then you have a second home on the water. That's
pretty accurate.
That's smaller or bigger.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of middle class, upper middle class, yuppie, corporate dream.
Yeah.
And I mean, to her credit, she painted it so clearly. Like, she painted that picture perfectly with numbers and locations and, and it's like, okay, well, what does it take to get that? And it takes 30 to 40 years in the workforce for most people, in corporate America, working for, I don't know, a defense contractor, or, one of these big Fortune 500, 100 companies.
Bitcoin when it was 17 cents.
Or you made a sort of an accidental investment that paid off because you're Nostradamus or something. But, it's like, and like, I sort of get that in a sense. Like, I understood where she was coming from, and I understood.
So you get it, like, you agree, or you just understand what she's saying?
I was hearing it basically for the first time in a way. I've heard it before. Clearly. Yeah, I've heard it before. I mean, I have another couple of friends. I mean, the whole reason why the $2 million mark is the sort of a mark for some people, who don't obviously attain like multiple millions of dollars, and because of like some breakthrough performance, or
that's the point in which you can retire.
It is, because because you can take between $40,000 and $80,000 a year out of
Just interest or whatever.
Yeah, without touching principal. And that's when, it's this sort of like little self-generation engine. And my numbers could be off by whatever, but, because obviously inflation shifts everything. So my numbers could be off, but it's that concept.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a concept from 10 years ago that she's just regurgitating. Anyway, but the idea holds, is that if I achieve a certain amount of money that can self-generate itself, as though money can have babies, which is a whole interesting concept.
Money will love you back, man.
Yeah, money will love you back. Yeah, exactly. Money has a soul now. Fascinating. If you achieve that, and then, you have your couple of houses, so you can take a vacation and then you're good. Like, that's the meaning of life. Like, that's what's important, and then you sort of like tag on to that. Oh, and I've got a bunch of other people, like brothers and sisters or cousins and uncles, who are also doing that. Mm-hmm. And my parents were a little better off than I was, so it's even cooler. And we have this powwow, and we can like go to all each other's, seaside houses, and then that's the dream.
Yeah.
And I she painted it so perfectly that I'm just like, okay, I finally get what you people are after, but it just sounds like, and I was trying to put myself into that, like, cause I've never thought like that at all in my life. And so I was trying to like go, okay, here's John inside that picture that she's painting, right? This is what John would look like. And I instantly went to my coffin and felt like I had like fur in my coffin, or like I felt like I was really insulated,
That'd be like, pretty legit coffin though. But I would say like you got to kill a bear and then use the bear like fur inside the coffin.
No, not like that.
Oh, okay.
More like I'm like, this is just insulating you from reality in a certain way, or it's just like
it's insulating you from eternity.
Right. I mean, I think the last pope called it like not armchair, but yeah, something like armchair Christianity, or like couch Christianity, or someone called it the air-conditioned Holocaust. Yeah. Like, it's just like this idea of like, okay, here's actual reality going on, and you're just sitting inside with air conditioning and at comfiness, and like your comfort is the meaning of your life. That's what's sitting.
Yeah. Comfort kills you, man.
Right. And so I don't know. It's just this interesting thing. I've never lived like that.
It's today's picture. It's exactly today's picture of, it's easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the gates of heaven, because that insulates you from the idea of eternity, that this life is going to end. And when you constantly are stuffing things into your soul to try to insulate you, to your point, you're insulating yourself from considering the fact that there may be a creator and there may be an eternity, and this may not be everything. If any one person can consider that for a moment, that there's an eternity, then it calls all of that into question, which is why we want to dispute that there's an eternity or that there's a God. Because if you first can get someone, that sounds like an argument, but if someone comes to the point of acknowledging that this life is not the end, then they have to consider what that means. It's like, okay, well, what's next? Okay, and then you're going to start looking at like, what's bigger? Okay, is there a God? Like, is it based off of works and how good I do here? Do I get reincarnated? Is heaven or hell? I mean, there's all of these religions out there, but if you come to the point to considering that there is an eternity, it calls into question the whole American dream. Like the Jesus Saves idea is like my favorite thing I've seen recently is like a bumper sticker that says Jesus Saves from the American dream. It's like, what is
but
your
aren't you now like, aren't you a leftist now because of that? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's an interesting thing because it's like the alignment of, I mean, this is just one example. There's lots of examples, but, the alignment of evangelical Christianity with the right and sort of like pro-capitalism and, sort of a more absolutist notion of private property, which is also false because, you die and it's not yours anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but while I'm here, That mountain's mine.
Right, mine, right. But that's that bullshit, right? It's mine. It's not yours, right? Actually, it's God's. Maybe God has lent it to you.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you could go even one step further. That's our body too. We're just stewards of everything here, but we are meant to steward it.
But it's so fast. It's just it shows that the universal values transcend these supposed political teams.
What do you mean?
Well, because I mean, in a way, when you just reference that bumper sticker, that's not on a right winger's car.
No. Well, yeah. I mean,
it's not.
It depends on. So the further you go to each side, it comes full circle a little.
Right.
Bit,
well, which just
you get the real full leftists or hippies, right?
It demonstrates to me that there really are no sides.
I think if you stay within the political realm, when you go far left, it's just hypocrites. That's the problem I have. Is like they pretend they're for the people, but they're just doing things to keep themselves in power. And I mean, I wouldn't associate myself with far right. I believe that capitalism is the best way to run an economy because you're not going to support people who aren't willing to work. And that's a biblical value. Those who don't work, don't eat. That's like people who are capable of working.
The trouble, at least for me with capitalism is that it almost personifies or idolizes the market.
Yeah.
And you can then run into
I'm not saying it's
problem.
It's perfect. I think,
for instance, like a common critique from the right of the left would be that it personifies or idolizes the state, right? It turns the state into a god, right? Yeah. And I fully recognize that. And the problem for me also is that you could also turn the marketplace into a god. Yeah. And then who's your god? Right. Instead of so you're trading power for money.
Well, it's for every mile of road, there's 2 miles of ditches. You got to stay in the middle. Like you can fall into either side of it. But I mean, like I look at capitalism and I think capitalism puts an expiration date on the middle class. Like I think the longer you have a successful capitalism, the smaller the middle gets. You're going to have the higher class and lower class because you have inherited wealth. Like I think that capitalism is not perfect, but what's better? You know what I mean? It's like we're not going to relocate wealth. That doesn't make sense. That's not going to.
If you can avoid the metaphysical mistakes of Marx, I know we're getting like super like ideological right now, but like if you can avoid the metaphysical mistakes of Marx, and I personally think you have to do that because you end up in materialism, you end up in dialectical atheistic materialism. If you can avoid his mistakes, you could still take a somewhat of a critical view of capitalism, and I think that which you actually just did, because then it's like, what happens to sort of like an ordinary daily experience of life? I mean, do you have to live in, do you have to be subservient to the sort of corporate kind of model?
In capitalism?
Eventually. You said it squeezes the middle class.
It squeezes the middle class just because if over generations you look at successful families, either there's 2 directions it goes. You get second, third generation people who squander the inheritance, or you continue to keep the family up, right? Like that's which is
I know some families
as a dad, right? Like you want to do that. You see your kids and you're like, I hope you aren't an idiot because I'm gonna give you a bunch of money someday, and like if you're an idiot, it's all gone. Right. I hope. Or they keep building, and that's the reason I think capitalism squeezes the middle. But it's undeniable if you look at the free trade that we have, or just the freedom that we have in our country over time. There's no end to the examples of people who start with nothing and end up with something. True. I think it's
who start with nothing but end up with a second barn full of stuff.
Well, or just not being worried about money. Like to me, that's wealth. Like the fact when I made it to the point where I didn't have to save up to buy oil every winter, like I'm like choosing which bill to pay so I can, pocket $50 here and there. So I got an oil fund, or like I'm checking my account before I go in to buy groceries every time, which happened to be clear like 4 or 5 years ago. I finally got to that point. I was like 30, where I was like, and I was okay. But like my point that I wanted to reach was just not think about it. And that's wealth to me. And I think that that's just the way that I look at it. Obviously, I'm not saying that's the gospel truth.
Yeah.
But it also,
Well, it's funny because actually in Luke 12, after that parable that you were citing, he actually goes on to then say, like, don't worry about
right.
where your food's coming
Exactly.
from. Don't worry about. But is that because? See, I think Christ is probably more radical, right? He's actually saying before you don't have to worry about it from a natural standpoint, don't worry about it.
Right. Right.
Which is a metaphysical.
Well, and it goes back to the original, the reason either of those parables came to be is because of the brother that came and said,
yeah,
give me half my inheritance. So are you worried more about stuff than everything else? It doesn't mean that stuff or money is going to be, is going to be bad for you.
Yeah.
It's essentially when your prayer becomes, if you look at what Jesus said in between his resurrection and ascension, there's one command: go into all the world as you go into all the world. So not necessarily like skip over places, just like as you go through life, preach the gospel, right? That's what we are supposed to concern ourselves with. That is what our main focus should be. So don't concern yourselves with what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, because if we do that, right, like God is going to take care of the people who are focused on his mission. And for an eternal purpose. It's not necessarily that we will be wealthy or that we'll get the life we want, but when we fill our hearts with your kingdom come, your will be done, that means we're concerned with the Father's work, not our own. And so we're able to keep the focus where it belongs, and those other things come into place. God, I am focused on what you told me to do. The rest is your problem. Like this is what you told me to do. You told me to go into all the world. You told me to, as I go into all the world, wherever I go, preach the gospel.
Yeah.
And there's going to be food on my plate. And if I miss a meal, so, all right, I got a couple extra pounds I can spare currently, like I'm going to go do what he tells me to do.
It's a real, I think culturally, like, to ground it and not to be too idealistic about Christianity, but to like ground it in our cultural context. It's like, I think our major temptation probably is to, for those of us who's supposedly say we're Christians, is to have to like check ourselves constantly, because this culture is not, it's not even that it's not interested in that message. It's that it's insulated from that message. And
yeah, ears to hear.
And so, but what I'm saying is that we're part of the culture. Like we're not, we haven't so fully extracted ourselves from the culture that
what would that look like?
I don't have the answer. I mean, I've seen dozens of different approaches.
Yeah.
I've seen I've seen 20-year-old kids hear the gospel, shave a little funny patch on their head, and disappear into a monastery in the Midwest, never to be heard from again, because they feel a radical call to just worship and praise God all the time. And so they're singing the Psalms 5 times a day.
But the interesting thing is, in between resurrection and ascension, did Jesus call us to just worship him?
What do you mean?
When Jesus was in between his resurrection and ascension, he gave us one command. And it wasn't to dedicate ourselves to a lifetime of worship. It was to go into all the world and preach the gospel.
Sure.
So we are. I'm
just saying there have been
specific.
I've seen different kinds of responses to it.
Yeah.
And some people take that ministry of what would you call it, like intercessory prayer, so seriously that they give their whole lives to it. And so I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I do see various attempts at it. That but I think just America is like actually a very dangerous culture for a Christian.
Yeah.
Because it's there is no state religion. So the governing principles of our society are not religious. Therefore the religion is the economy. or the religion is the military, or the religion is the power of the state, you know, or the religion is the sexual culture. And so, yeah, we don't have a religion, and it was set up that way, to avoid the religious wars that were happening in Europe. At least that's my personal view, is that America was sort of a political compromise so that Catholics and Protestants would stop killing each other. And I think it's worked. Obviously it has. They stopped killing each other. They're still doing it in Ireland, but like over here, it's done. It's basically done. I mean, there were a few rough patches 100 years ago, 120 years ago, 130 years ago, you know, but it's pretty much done. And, but at what cost?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the apathetic.
Right. So now we're
eternity.
Now we're apathetic Christians and
well, I mean, Christians. You know,
right. That's the whole freaking point. You know, here we are like talking about this ancient text and how it may or may not actually apply in our lives.
Well, yeah, and you take the rich young ruler. That's
It's
like Jesus said, surrender all that you have. So first off, what's the question that he asked when he came to Jesus? What must I do to be saved? Right. So he instantly makes it about his action, you know, and
it makes it about him.
It makes it about him, but also it's like, I want to be able to attain this. I want to do something to attain it, you know, and then you place that in a juxtaposition with Abraham, and it was like God called him and his faith preceded his action. So it's like the faith that we have in here shows the external. It's not about the external. It's about the faith that precedes the external action. And so the problem is when you look at this rich young ruler,
he started with himself instead of God.
He started with himself.
Sure.
And so then all of his possessions. And so Jesus, being able to see his heart, says, you need to give all this away, because he knew that's what was on the throne.
Right.
He wasn't willing to surrender the throne to the lordship of Jesus Christ.
Or if he did, then he'd be in right relationship, because
if he was willing to surrender it. Like it's not that he actually physically needed to have nothing in order to be a follower of Christ.
He said, go give it all away.
Right. But it wasn't because of the action. It was because of the internal struggle that Jesus recognized this man had.
That's the cake and eat it too scenario.
It's not. It
seems like it is to me.
Well, so it's Abraham. So go back to the example that we have of Abraham. Right. So Abraham didn't have to give up all he had.
No, but that's not what Jesus wasn't there asking him to do that.
No, but God and Jesus are the same, right? So what is
some people have been asked to give everything away.
Right. Well, yes, but it's because what they're called to.
I agree.
Right.
Well, that's my example of the monk, you know, like, I mean, I agree with you, right? So like clearly the monk is called to be in a monastery, or he feels like he is.
Right.
Assuming it's not just a second.
Well, but what I'm saying is which comes first for Abraham, it was his faith preceded. So if you go to Genesis 15, it doesn't say anything about Abraham's action.
Yeah, there's no I there.
Abraham believed God, and it was counted unto him as righteousness, right? So when Jesus was looking at this young man, he could recognize that he was going to be unable to surrender it because that's what was on his throne. It's his attainment. So that's why that first question that the young man asks matters. What must I do? So he's like you said, it's making it about him.
Yeah.
He thinks that his pursuit and his ability has something to do with the righteousness that he can't actually attain. It's only given to him through Jesus. Obedience, the faith precedes the action. And so that's what we see is that the cotton in the ears of the American people is that we have been fed the American dream to what you said, and this is the danger of capitalism, is that the harder I work, the more I can pull myself up by the bootstraps, and I can do something about this. And what we do and what we have and what we are able to accomplish with our lives, it's all our.
Right. It's
the only thing we get is it starts with faith, and the belief in Jesus is what starts it all. So the things afterwards, you can have it all or you can have nothing.
But
it's
what's interesting to me is like the transition. So this is a concept from it's like a theologian from the 20th century, Balthazar. He talks about the ego drama and the theodrama. And the ego drama, I'm the author, I'm the director, and I'm the main star.
Mm-hmm.
And in the theodrama, I'm an actor in God's play.
Right.
God's the author, God's the director, and I'm an actor in that play. And so God is the locus, God is the center of that theodrama. And what I'm interested in is what causes the transition, the change from moving from the ego drama to the theodrama. And because to me that's actually where that's the interesting part. That's the
surrender.
It's a surrender or an invitation or a demand, or like, this night you will be demanded of you. You know what I mean? Like there's this little thing. I'm going to pause here for just a second because I need to take a break.
Yep. I was just watching the mics. And we're back.
Yeah. So the way that the sound works is, you clip everything under a certain level.
Decibels. Oh.
Yeah. So it'll there's ambient noise all around.
That's what I was seeing when I was just looking at
there's tons of ambient noise.
And I was like, oh wow.
There's also a mic on the computer.
Oh, that's on.
Will pick. Yeah, it's not recorded, but it's on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's a ton of different things.
I interrupted you.
That's fine.
I was hearing it in the background.
No, that's
fine. You're definitely gonna hear that.
No. We'll start now ish. So I wanted to come back to this idea of two flags, because to me it kind of illustrates the point about the ego drama and the theodrama. And
Theo being short for theological.
Theo meaning God. Yeah. And
is that what Theo means?
It's a Greek. It's the Greek theosis, or it's the Greek word for God. Okay. So like Latin would be Deus, Greek would be Theos.
I didn't do all those studies.
That's you know it anyway. So we get the word God from the German Gott, G-O-T-T. All of which they're just words, right? Describing something that whatever. So the ego drama and the theodrama, I was in seminary. I think it was my first year in theological studies. So I had done all the philosophy stuff, and I was wearing the collar at the time because they put you in the collar at a certain point. And I was trying to get used to it, like what it would feel like to wear all black, because that's very intense, and then have a collar on, which is a big identifier of, you're not just a waiter. And so anyway, I was here in Camden, and there was the Market Basket, which no longer exists, on Route 90 and 1. And it's like a fancy little food shop, and
best Thanksgiving sandwiches.
Yeah. And anyway, there was a mother of one of my high school classmates behind the counter, and I was in the collar, and I went up and I was just buying a sandwich or something to get on the road to get out of here. And she said, "Oh, she knew me. She's like, "Oh, John, are you like studying to be a member of the clergy?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am." And she said, "It's so wonderful to have such a young person studying to be an Episcopal priest." And I said, "I'm studying to be a Catholic priest." And you should have seen her face drop when I said that. She was disgusted.
Oh, rats.
It wasn't "oh, rats." It was like, that's gross. And then I had another experience within the same framework. And it was from a group of kids here, and it was in 2000 and I want to say 2008. I had been in for 2 years, and it was the same situation. I don't know if I was wearing the clothes or whatever, but it came up that I was studying to be a priest, and they said, "Oh, you're a pedophile!" Like, boom, instantly. And I was like 25.
Yeah.
I was a 25-year-old, guy. And it was just like, boom, out of nowhere. So anyway, the reason I bring that up is just because I think, if I were ever to put those two flags on my store, like, the climate is such that I know which one would get spit on.
Yep.
And it's
if they knew what it was.
Well, the Vatican flag. Oh, yeah, they know.
I wouldn't recognize a Vatican flag.
Oh, really? Yeah, they would know.
I'd be like, hey, what's that old flag you got?
Yeah. It's a big yellow flag with Peter's keys on it.
Okay.
Anyway, but I know which one would get spit on.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. So I had a customer in here the other day, and a very, very lovely customer. And I instantly like felt a connection, to her in terms of like her, vulnerability and openness and the way she just carried herself. Sweet lady, moved here recently from upper state, New York. And she like very quickly identified herself as LGBT, and she said that, and I'm actually going to have her on the podcast, and she's a really fun person, and she wants to start like a retreat center. So it's funny that you were talking about like a mountain retreat for these guys. She wants to start some kind of unofficial get together gathering place in order, and these were her words, in order to support the LGBT community. And she said, and I don't even know what that means. And I said, I guess it depends on what the problem is. How do you support someone if you don't, you have to identify
weaknesses.
Yeah. You need to identify whatever. And, and she's not, I don't believe she's coming from any Christian perspective on this, right? She's coming from whatever perspective, and I'll find out what it is as I sit down and talk with her. But she was, anyway, it's just really interesting. And for me, I mean, I think, having kids in the public school system and, understanding kind of the trajectory, and I've understood this for a very long time, what the trajectory of let's call it sexual ethics is as defined by the American culture. I think that those are actually the conversations we need to be having, in terms of, what is the point of life, and what is, what makes a good life? And the reason I bring it up again is because to me, it's not as though the ego isn't involved in salvation. In other words, it's not as though God doesn't actually save you.
Right.
When he saves you, he saves you. Mm-hmm. He doesn't just save like some idealized version of you or some
while we were yet sinners.
Right, exactly. And so the ego, the word ego can have like a very bad connotation, like egotistical or whatever. It's
because we've shortened it to your ego is in the way.
Sure, like right.
That's it's always a negative connotation.
Right. And certainly the ego can get in the way. I'm my own worst enemy, or, there are ways in which we self-sabotage all the time, either by thinking we're the whole point of the universe, or, thinking my wants are more important than other people's, or things like that. But I always want to make sure the ego is included in this larger conversation about Christianity, because sometimes it feels like, at least from certain perspectives, when we're talking about salvation, when we're talking about relationship with God, it's almost as though like there's no one there to actually have a relationship with God. You know what I mean? Like the ego's not involved at all. And so, it's just, it's a piece of the puzzle, because you could look at you could take a certain perspective as a Christian, and you probably would pass muster in a lot of churches, maybe. I think it's bullshit, but you probably could, where, if someone is acting in a way that you would think is contrary to the gospel, or is demonstrably contrary to the gospel, that they quote unquote don't have ears, or that they have hardened hearts, or you use whatever phrase or analogy you want, and that therefore they are sort of excluded and
attend a church and are excluded. Is that what you're saying?
What's that?
Like they frequent a church.
No. They're not Christian at all.
Okay, so they just a person.
Yeah, they're a person like this woman that I met, or whatever. I mean, you could engage in a kind of a judgment, right? Oh, because she wraps herself in LGBT, therefore, right, she's excluded or something like that. And for me, and this again is sort of like, this is why the movement from ego drama to theodrama is always, for me, the actual interesting piece.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to judge who has ears and who doesn't.
Right.
Like, I don't want to act in that place personally.
You can't, right?
Yeah, I think maybe people do, but I don't enjoy it. And I'm interested. I mean, unless the person's like literally mentally ill and there's nothing you could do anyway to like talk to somebody, I would want to be able to, because then all you can offer is like kindness. I'm always interested in like finding the little footpaths in someone's life experience where Christ may already be present, or Christ may already be doing the work, like before me and without me.
Yeah.
And so like, that's my interest in conversation, really. Yeah. And that goes for someone who would claim the mantle of Christian or not, or someone who would, wrap themselves in an ideology which would appear to be anti-Christian.
Yeah.
And I guess for me, it's like, I'm not afraid of sin at all. Like I like, that's my position toward things that are obviously or not so obviously against God's law is not fear.
Right.
Right. Cause he's already won.
Yeah.
So what's there to be afraid
it's not
of?
fear, for sure. Yeah. That's not the way to.
And so it's more for me, it's like interest. Like I'm just interested in human beings,
connection,
and but it's a connection for a purpose.
Yeah.
And
have you seen that? I haven't watched any of the full episodes, but it's a soft white underbelly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty wild. That's similar to that. It's just like the connection with people and giving people an opportunity to speak, and it's some wild stuff on there.
Yeah. Well, and what defines relationship with Christ?
Yeah. What does?
I don't think there's necessarily only one answer, in the sense that, because here's the thing, like, if God exists, and if he's our creator, and if he's our Lord, and if he's our savior, regardless of our opinion about him,
mm-hmm.
right? Because it says like every knee will bend.
Yeah.
That's like not only the people that profess me's knees will bend. Like, no, every knee bends.
Right.
So everyone actually already is in relationship to God. God made everybody to be. God thought of everybody. He made everybody, and he continues to keep everybody that is alive in existence right now.
Right.
And he's constantly thinking about us.
Well, yeah, but what you look at is what the actual relationship with God is. This is where you have the contrast between Abraham in the Old Testament and us as believers in since the New Testament, the new covenant, right? The new promise is that Jesus fulfilled the law, is that we have one thing in common. We're both doing what God told us to do. And so Abraham got up and left. He believed God and it was counted as righteousness. We believe God that he sent his son. And so we pursue a relationship with our creator through Jesus, his son, because that's what he told us to do.
Right. I'm not disputing that.
I know. But what I'm saying is like what the relationship is that the rest of the people or rest of people who don't want that, God gives them exactly what they want.
Well, right. Like, but I guess what I'm saying is like everyone is in relationship with God regardless.
Yeah. They exist in the reality that God created.
That's right. And God is behind the reality. You know, he's separate from reality. He's the precondition under which reality exists at all.
Yeah.
And so my whole interest is that connection between the ego drama and the theodrama, or in other words, like the movement from slowly, gently getting out of the center, so that God can take that center space. Because
you as an individual, what do you mean?
Yeah, me as an individual or other people that I talk to, right? When someone comes into this store, they open their mouth and they reveal who they are.
Yeah.
They reveal what they're interested in. And it reveals the depth of their like being.
Yeah.
And so they'll quickly identify themselves as where they are on that journey. To me. And now this is my framework for looking at somebody. Like, are they telling me that they're caught in an ego drama? Are they telling me that they are participating in a theodrama, knowingly, unknowingly? You know, like people show themselves.
Right.
And so my personal interest is someone who's always been interested in eternity, and not because I came up with it. It's just something that's always been interesting to me. Is when people show who they are, it's like, is there a way in which I can find even the subtle manifestations of God, and where there might be an opportunity anywhere, even in places you wouldn't necessarily think, where there might be an opportunity to like grow something just a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, that's just that's why I'm interested in these sort of juxtaposing ideologies and
between the flags.
Yeah. And it literally, I mean, it's everyone who comes in here, you know, I mean, everybody who comes in here, everybody I sit down and actually have a real conversation with I'm always like, I can't help bringing the worldview that I bring because of who I am and like what I've read and what I've thought about and what I care about. And I think that's true of everybody. It's just that, that is always that's always what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
So I don't know, for what it's worth.
Yeah. I think you have to meet people where they're at, and you have to understand their story. I mean, if you look at the way Paul wrote, what is it, like a quarter of the New Testament, you know, Paul wrote it, and each one is written to a city where he's been. He understands their struggles and writes it personally to them. And yes, it's applicable over time and still applicable to us today as individuals. But if you don't understand the struggles that an individual has, you can't speak truth into their life, even if you know all the truth. You know, it's like, right.
And that's where the whole ears to hear thing kind of like, I want to say it like it doesn't apply at all, because it certainly can, but it's I guess my question is like, what do people have ears to hear?
Right. Well,
what could I say?
And I don't think that verse is for us to use as judgment either. Right. I think it's if anything, retroactively, we can look on a group of people and say they didn't have ears to hear necessarily. You know, right. If you go into a group of people and you're talking about the gospel. You're sharing the truth of the scripture with people, and you look back on the conversation and you can say, yeah, they didn't want to hear. Either they were aggressive and they were angry and they were cussing you out and they were just like not having it. Or even you could talk to people who are very welcoming to the conversation, but they just walk away with nothing. You know, I've had some great conversations with people and I'm like, wow, like, I can't wait to see him at church on Sunday, you know? And it's like, and then like a year goes by, you know, and I've done it. I have some people where it's like 2 or 3 times now. I've had really deep conversations where they genuinely seemed interested in understanding more about a relationship with Christ means. And then it goes nowhere. And that's not up to me. My job is still the one commandment that Jesus left us with, you know, not commandment, but the one thing Jesus told us to do, right, is to preach the gospel. And the good news of Christ it's not about anything except for the initial resolution of being at odds with God. The good news of Christ is that we are justified under his righteousness before our Creator. You know, like that's it. That's the start. You know, so for me, when I think about conversations with people that I disagree with, it's not about proving my worldview right ever. But it's hard to go back to the analogy that I used all the way in the beginning about building a house. It's tempting for me sometimes to focus on discipline, to focus on improving your life, you know, because so many people are just in this wishy-washy lifestyle of like, I don't know why my life's bad. It's like, well, dude, you drink way too much, you know, like right. You're 200 pounds overweight. Like right. I can pick things that are on the surface. I can tell you your shutters don't match your siding. Like I can tell you these things as a friend and we can change that together. But if we don't get to the foundation and we fix your whole house, but the foundation is crumbling and falling into the ground, you know, it's not going to do you any good in eternity. So you can lose 200 pounds, you can fix your house, you can fix your body, you can fix all these things in your life. But if we don't through that process also address the fact that your foundation has cracks, you built your house on the sand. You know, you didn't build your house on the rock.
It's a nice house. It's a fancy house and you look good in it.
And when this body goes away and you enter into eternity, it doesn't matter that you had a 6-pack at the age of 65. Doesn't matter that you had the $2 million in the bank and the beach house and the $1 million property that you live in. None of that matters because we did a good job being brothers in this life and holding each other accountable to our diet and our finances. But we didn't have the conversation about, hey, dude, eternity's real, you know, and that's where I think all conversations as a believer, and according to what Jesus told us, all conversations need to come to that point. And I mean, it would I just look at it and I'm like, I really challenge myself in the light of people die every day, you know, and,
sure.
And as much as I can plan this long game, this chess match of building a relationship so that at some point, like I'm waiting for this right point to move my piece into the place, checkmate. I just got you. We had a great conversation about like eternity and God loves you, but like he also will let you have what you want, which is separation from him. You want to be the Lord of your life. You can have that for eternity. That's called hell. You know, you don't have to put up with God in this life or the next. And that's what you want. But I wait until I can have that conversation just right. And then they die in a motorcycle accident. You know,
I do wonder. Yeah. I mean,
how do you do that? You know,
I feel like an ego creeps in there too, though. Like as though if I didn't have the conversation, they're not in relationship with God.
Yeah. I mean, you have to walk in the spirit. That's for sure.
You know what I mean?
Walk in the spirit like wait for the opportunity.
Someone I've never met is dying right now. Right. So, you know, God's got it. Yeah. You know, like what does that have to do with me?
It doesn't. So it is definitely the opportunities that are presented to you.
Yeah.
But it's also like a really cool account in the Bible about Elijah. So when Elijah confronted the 400 prophets of Baal. Yeah. Remember that story? Yeah, so like they have the God off and God, the one through God. Yeah, they're doing all this wild stuff.
Okay.
He shows them that God's God. Then he kills them all.
Yes, he does.
And he's like, it's a pretty wild story.
Right.
But then he runs away. And so first he goes by a brook and God feeds him. And then he goes to this mountain. And I forgot this part. Like I probably had read it once, maybe. I don't know. I was studying it recently. And so God comes through, and it says God was present in all of them. That I think it's a rainstorm and windstorm so much. He's hiding in this cave on the mountain that rocks start falling off the mountain. Then a firestorm. And then like one other storm comes through, and God, I think he said God was in all of them. I think. Either way, I can't remember that part. God wasn't in them.
No,
God was not in them.
Yeah.
But then the important part is the still small voice at the end.
Is there, yeah.
And that's where God is.
That's
Right?
right.
So like if we're so distracted with all of that stuff and all of these things, like fixing the shutters and fixing the paint and fixing our bodies and fixing our finances and all this stuff, we will miss the opportunities that God gives us to share the gospel. That's the point, is like, yes, there's somebody in a bed dying somewhere that you don't know, but there's also potentially somebody that's dying that you do know, and that's the person that you're supposed to go talk to. Like we can't get bound up with the opportunities we don't have, because we do live in a free country. We do have an opportunity to go out. I've tried to hand out tracts. I've tried to talk to people in this area. Not happening. I can't stop people on the sidewalk.
Well,
Save my life,
is
man.
getting at precisely the thing that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Is
how to do it. Sorry.
The methodology. No, exactly.
Yeah.
How and the method. And I think that we have to pay attention to when we are and where we are and what the predominant religion or mythology narrative that governs people's lives actually is, because I think the whole handing out, St. Paul didn't hand out tracts.
Right.
Okay. None of the apostles did. They didn't.
Right.
And, the whole handing out tracts thing is a post printing press, European invention, like from the 1600s. Yeah. It's an invention, and it was an early form of actually political power, right? Because they were trying to break up the Holy Roman Empire and create I have other coffee too. They were trying to break up the Roman Empire and Holy Roman Empire and create nation states, and there's a lot of things. As much as it was theological, it was also political. And so the question is like, it's actually a very I think about like in New York City right now, there's some guy dressed up in a goofy like tiger costume handing out like, come to this dance party or like go to this business or whatever. Like, there's a kind of hokiness to it, and also a kind of almost adversarialness to like handing something to someone that they don't want and didn't ask for.
Yeah.
And I guess like, is that what the gospel is? Like handing something to someone who doesn't want it and didn't ask for it? Is that the God? Like, I don't think that's the gospel, because I don't think that's the way Christ enters into the world. I don't think that's the way Christ entered into the world.
Yeah. But to your point,
I think, hold on, just wait, let me finish this. Okay. So because I actually think Christ is the answer to our heart's longing. I think Christ is the key, to our heart's desires. Yeah. Actually, I think Christ will, if we actually have a relationship with Christ, our hearts would be inflamed.
Absolutely.
Peace. And so it's not a passive peace though. It's like an active burning peace, like where we're like, let's go, like. Well,
it starts at peace.
Well, no, I just mean whatever, however you want to characterize peace. Yeah. Like, it's not like a cessation of war. No. It's like a proper ordering of reality.
It's peace that surpasseth all understanding.
Sure.
Your experience in this life does not dictate your peace of eternity.
Right. Well,
that's where it starts. And then your passion to serve based off of that. Your passion to take part in the effort of your kingdom come, your will be done is based off of that beginning point.
Right. Well, so anyway, my point in bringing that up is just that to me, if someone is in relationship to Christ, they're actually energized by that.
Absolutely.
And so that's very different from handing someone a piece of paper that may talk about some of that, but that they're not interested in, they couldn't give a damn, and that they never asked for. And so there's so I guess what what I'm trying to like, I don't pretend I have the answer to this actually. I mean, I've stumbled into particular answers a few times completely by, accident, but not because I planned it. But I don't actually have the general answer to this, which is, what is that encounter with someone that is so genuine, that's so real, that's so moving and deep and rooted in a place of actual like God, that would actually generate that passing of the flame type thing. Anyway, that's sort of
so for me, so last week my boys started to they were getting bored, and I was like, all right, go build a tree house. And I gave them some stuff around the house that we had. And for 2 years now, we've had this plan to build a tree house. And I'm like, we're going to go buy stuff. We're going to build a real tree house. We've got 2 Norway maples on our like right around the garage, where the Norway maples just spread out perfect. There's blims everywhere. They're perfect for tree houses. And so we had one in the middle of the lawn. I was like, we're going to design this really cool tree house. We're going to build this like picturesque tree house. And I just hadn't had time yet to do it. And so we kept putting it off. And we got to the end of this summer, and I was like, man, this is the second summer. And so I gave them like 3 pallets, and like they went out and they spent half the day starting to build. And then I went and got them some stuff. And I think about that because in relation to all of these times that we can focus so much on it being like the perfect opportunity, that we miss the easy opportunities. So when I go hand out tracts, I know it's not out of 100 people, 1,000 people. I don't know, like give 2,000 people. What's it worth for that one time for somebody to be ready to read it? Or they don't just throw it in the trash and they take it home and set it on their desk. And then 6 months later, their wife leaves them, or somebody dies. And then they're literally in this place and it's just sitting there.
You're like casting seeds. You're like
100%.
casting seeds.
I've heard enough stories where this is true. It just is true because it's God's word. And so for me, my ministry that God's called me to is not centered around a track. It's like I'm not going out doing tracks, but tracks are in our society today where everybody is so schedule oriented because they're chasing whatever today's goals are, right? Like, and I'm right there, man. Like if I don't schedule something, I get it. Like it's hard for me to quantify how important a relationship is with somebody because I'm like, I didn't get anything done today because I sat there and talked to somebody for 3 hours, and that's hard to quantify. Even in ministry, like you're like, oh, well, I was supposed to go do this. I was supposed to go do that. And it's like, well, I didn't do any of it. So I get the idea of like, when you try to stop somebody on the sidewalk and be like, can I tell you about Jesus? They're like, no, man,
I'm good.
Work.
Thank
I have
you.
to clock
Appreciate
in 3 minutes and I'm
Right.
running late. So walking down the sidewalk, I've done this a handful of times now with tracks, and I walk down one side of the street and back up the other. And I just say, hey, can I give you something? I don't even try to stop them. And, probably every single one of those has been thrown away, but maybe not. It's like, maybe that's just the obedience that God has called me to do evagelism in some way. And until the next step is revealed, I just know that that's something. It's some way that I'm doing something, and I'm not putting a lot of hope into it, but like, that's not my job. My job is not to convict people, even if I am preaching the gospel to them. I still can't change their heart. So, God made this whole world with his word, in 6 days, including us, you know, like if he can't take a piece of paper and turn somebody's heart, then that's not faith,
yeah. And
right?
my concern isn't sort of like the outside chance possibility of blah, 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 like that. And that's fine. I mean, I grant all of that.
Yeah.
Like it's not,
Yeah.
doesn't like strike me as like, oh, wow, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, although, yes. Okay. Right. People do.
What's it worth, right? Like I'm willing to
Probably
hand out
do that.
2,000 for one.
And that's all good.
It's like, what?
Well, so like to the point, like I wouldn't take it.
Right. I've had,
I'd be like, dude, no thanks.
Yeah.
Weirdo.
I've had like one person be like, no, I don't want it. I can hand out tracts all day long.
Yeah.
You know, and probably it's because they just know they can throw it away. Like I'm not saying like,
yeah, I want to save your money. I don't want you to have to. I don't want to throw that out.
Yeah, but
for
you would also see that you're an outlier in that though,
Right.
because you would be like, oh, what is this? And then you'd probably engage in a conversation and stand there for half an hour and talk.
I'd rather talk to the person than read their stupid piece of paper.
Right. Right.
Because I'm more interested in people.
Yeah, but you're an outlier in that fact, right? Like everybody else is just going to take it so they don't have to have the conversation.
Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah. That's funny. Right. Yeah. I know. I'm more interested in conversing with people.
I've heard some stories, man. I can't even relay the story adequately, but there was a guy in Australia who had a shop on some main street in a busy harbor town, and he handed out tracts for like 40 years. And this guy that was doing some church organization something bumped into somebody that was a pastor that spoke very eloquently, and he told the story about how he got saved.
Yeah.
And it was some guy in a shop,
Sure.
gave him a tract, and then he went to seminary. And then this guy that heard that story ends up bumping into somebody else that had a similar story, that bumps into somebody else. And then he goes to like this pastor's conference in somewhere and hears it again. And so he's like, I'm going to go figure out who this guy is. And in the end, like this guy ends up interviewing like 100 pastors or something. It's some astronomical number. Right. And tracks down this guy and finds out that he had just sold his shop or just closed down. And the guy is like 90 something. He's on the end of his life, and he tracks him down to his apartment and knocks on his door. And the guy like breaks down crying. He's like, out of 40 years, nobody has ever come back and told me anything. And so he was so happy to just know one person. And then he died. The guy died like a week later. And so it was like God gave him just that little bit. Yeah. But it was pastors that were being saved from these tracts. And so God doesn't look at it as who saved who, because Jesus saved them all. But like his obedience down the road. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, well,
I guess my point is just like, you know, if
is it a stewardship of time scenario? Like how is your time best spent?
Not even. Everyone's going to determine that for themselves. Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess everyone's just given the light that they're given, and they just do. Well,
it's in many parts of the body, right?
Yeah, so it's like I know I would never engage in that. But
so I like that passage about the many parts of the body. Because like our body parts are all meant for something different, but there's only one part made around for sitting and doing nothing, and nobody wants to be that part. So like you serve God's ass, right? you serve God in the way that you are gifted to, and you know. Yeah. So sometimes it is the conversations, the longer conversations, the deeper connections, because you know why does God give any of us any gift?
Right.
You know, it's like we're given the different gifts that are accentuated when we receive the Spirit of Christ, you know.
Well, so what, I mean, are you interested in like what's success to you in the sort of missionary sense? Like, or are you even concerned about success, or are you just concerned about
obedience? It's solely obedience.
I mean, there is that line in the Psalms about give success to the work of our hands, give success to the work of our hands.
I pray for everybody that I share the gospel with. Yeah. But like I measure success in my personal walk with Christ and my obedience to what he calls me to each day. So whether it's getting up in front of an audience and preaching, or it's a one-on-one conversation, or it's a day in prayer.
How do you determine, like, especially with these sort of more interesting things? I mean, we have stark examples that are obvious, but like in these more interesting things, like what's your litmus test for determining something is actually like obedience versus you just told yourself in your head?
That's a rough one. It's really putting it on the altar for Christ.
Right. But okay, but then still, how do you make the determination?
So for me right now, it's really interesting. Right now is probably the first time in my life I'm not pulling a Peter and just jumping out of the boat. Like for the way that I am, man, and you've known me for a couple of years now. Like I'm the first one to jump. I'm the first one to take a swing. I'm the first one to do it. Like I don't
unload your clip.
Yeah. I don't stop and think very well. And so it's been really cool since I got back from Africa in January.
Yeah.
I'm just like, man, what am I supposed to do now, God? Like, and I'm praying this, like, what now? Like, what do you want me to do? Is it are you calling me? And it's not that I'm not doing anything. I'm doing the things that I have been doing.
Sure.
Are you just calling me to be consistent at this? And but then I still have this little seed of like, no, like there's something coming, but you have to be ready for it. So it's waiting and waiting and waiting. And it took me like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months of like, I'm going to just keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing this. I know consistency is good, and still praying like, what am I doing? And it took me 4 months to realize that God was like, yeah, just wait. The next thing will come. But it's for right now, it's just, I'm telling you to wait. And I was like, man, I'm growing up. Like my relationship with God is maturing a little bit, that I hear that still small voice, and it's not go, it's wait for a minute, and see what's next. So to answer your question, that's a short answer long. I think when we're walking with God in the simple obedience day to day, and we're maintaining the relationship with him, those things become a little bit easier.
The reason I ask is because, I mean, there have been many times in my life where life was a lot more clear. Like I knew, go here, go there, do this, do that. And sometimes I was really wrong.
Yeah.
In my clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've had to backtrack a bunch of times in my life to get back on the path that he kind of wanted me to the whole time. And, it's not as though you don't learn from making a mistake and coming back and going, obviously there's so many things you learn.
You challenged me in this is, how do you know it was a mistake? Maybe success in that endeavor was not your perception.
Right.
It's like his ways are higher than ours as a start.
Well, I mean, like giving 5 years of my life over to, supposedly studying to be a priest. Like, what's that about?
Yeah, but success to you in that opportunity would be the outcome of you becoming a priest.
Well, as I went along more and more, it became increasingly clear that to become a priest would actually be to render myself an utter failure. And which is why I had to just turn around and eat crow. But
now those 5 years, are those a waste?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out.
So that's the thing, right? Is like, if
I'm of two minds about that, at least.
Yeah, but if you look at it as we have an expectation.
You could take an unsuccessful marriage as another example of that. Is that a waste? It's like, and it's again, it's like, from a certain perspective, kind of yes. Right. And you can see where you made mistakes, you could see the mistakes that got you into something that would then sort of collapse and capsize.
So,
and it's like, there are real mistakes or errors in judgment. There are real errors in judgment.
Absolutely.
And I'm not afraid to say that, it's there's that stupid, no regrets idea. It's like, no, real regret. Like I've actually made a mistake. And it's not as though you can't glean the gold inside the mistake, because you certainly can, and you'd be stupid not to,
right.
But it was actually a mistake. And it's okay to admit that. I think that's part of being human, is making mistakes. And
so the verse, he works all things together for good
Right.
for those who love him
Sure.
and who are called according to his purpose.
Right.
Like we leave off the end of that verse sometimes, and that there's no exceptions to that.
There's a
The
natural
veiled
truth
marriage,
there.
all of that is like,
Yeah.
as we go through life, when we are called according to his purpose, what's his purpose? As you go into all the world, preach the gospel. His kingdom come, his will be done. Those are his purpose. When we're called according to those, everything that we may look back and call a mistake because of our expectation of what success is, God is going to be able to use those things for us to reach people with the good news of Christ.
I mean, I do think that's a somewhat, and this, we go back and forth about this all the time. I do think that's a somewhat constrained notion of what simple obedience is, because I think it gives you a lot of clarity. I think it gives you a clear mission and a clear straight line forward. But like, for instance, like I could be equally valid to fetishize a different verse of the Bible. And I could say like, and I actually think this is probably where I live most of my life, to work out your salvation in fear and trembling. And like,
What does that mean?
To me, it means that this gift of healing that God offers me and everyone, the world, is to be engaged in with utter respect and awe, to the point where you're holding it in your hands like a precious gift. My father told me that the first time he worked with stones, and then he worked with silver, and then he worked with gold, and it was very much, he didn't inherit a business like I did. He was like ground up into the jewelry world, and the first time he was working with gold, because it was so much more expensive than silver, he was like shaking and his hands were shaking. And I sort of feel like that's how precious, or far more precious, is that notion of that offer of salvation.
Yep.
And that the way we engage it ought to be handled with that level of care and awe. And like, that's where I like to live. I don't love to live in the verse, and this is maybe personality preference. It could be theological tradition. I don't know. Maybe a little both, but like, I don't love to live in the verse of like, I was saved, even though that's in there. I mean, that's in the Bible, that sentence, I was saved. Right.
What's I don't understand the context.
Well, the context is in comparison to the notion of working out salvation in fear and trembling.
Yeah.
Like you were saying before, like somebody got a tract and they were talking about the pastor, and he went, and then he was saved, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, fine, well and good. My personality is such that I really have a hard time with that.
Well, that's good though. I mean, that's good, because like for each one of us, our salvation should be cherished.
It feels like it should. And I feel like the reason why, I mean, I've told you this story like many times before, but like, my first communion class, we were like 7 years old or whatever. And, there was 10 of us or 11 of us. And as far as I know, I'm the only practicing Catholic or Christian that, as poorly as I do it, I mean, I'm the only one that's even still interested in it or whatever. And well, why is that? And it's because, and again, it's like part of it's just my personality. Maybe some of it has to do with God in a different sense. I don't know, but like, it does seem like a precious, gift that is not, that it would be really, in the worst times in my life, I have presumed it. In the worst times in my life, I have been presumptuous about God's gift of salvation.
Which
and
ironically, most of the times are the best physical times in your life.
Probably, yeah. When things were going well, or, when I felt self-sufficient, or when I was just outrightly choosing something that I knew was wrong.
Yeah.
and those are probably more frequent in my case, but it's like, it's what keeps me coming back is the unspeakable, unfathomable, like, beauty of the gift.
Yep.
And then it's like, well, my correct position, the most real and authentic that I can be in relationship to that gift is like trembling.
Yep.
And like, oh, this is something worth, worth admitting again that I was wrong about if I was ever to mishandle it. And so I don't know, that's sort of my,
well, it's what happens when you almost die. You step back and you realize how close to death you were and you're trembling.
right.
It's that we're so close
Right.
to eternal death. And the only thing that separates us is the righteousness of Jesus.
Yeah. It's just like, anyway, so that's just sort of like, oh, I could probably do it with a dozen other verses,
Yeah,
but it's
for
like,
sure.
it's just like, to me, I don't like to look at the gospel in a way that's,
The gospel is only the one thing. The gospel
well, this is where we kind of like,
it's not the four gospels. The good news of Jesus Christ is only one thing. The good news of Jesus Christ is not our works, lest any man should boast.
Yeah, that's not.
It's like the good news is
my position.
I know. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, the good news is centric. That
it's Christocentric.
Right.
Sure.
We believe that only through Jesus we have salvation from
right. And I guess it just,
eternity.
again, it's like, well, how does that function in everyone's lives? And all I can, from my experience of doing this for a while, is Christ's relationship is at the same time as it's incredibly communal. It's also, and so it has a lot of the same characteristics.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
also insanely specific.
Yeah, to you, it has to be.
Yeah, and like that's the.
Well, I think to your point, I guess what I'm hearing you say, and I completely agree with, is that if we become hyper focused on anything in the scripture other than the gospel, we're missing the point.
Well, I would say it differently. I would say that if we think we know what the gospel is and like entirely such that we can define it, I would say I'd be actually leery of that, because I think God, as like, I would say, like, I'll ask you, like, do you have a better understanding of the gospel than you did 2 decades ago?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's sort of what I'm getting at, in the sense of like, you have a fuller understanding of the gospel.
Yeah. Well,
and
that's working it out, to your point, right?
Yeah. And so what you would have called the gospel 20 years ago, it's not as though it's opposite. It's just that it's richer, it's more developed, it's mature. Your walk with Christ is more mature. And that's sort of what I'm kind of getting
at. I
at.
think that's a bad example or a bad analogy, I guess, would be like, if you're holding an apple in your hand.
Yeah.
It is an apple. Yeah. I know it's an apple.
Sure.
From the time I'm a little kid, I know it's an apple.
Sure.
But then you take a bite of the apple, then you figure out that the apple has all the different parts, but it's still an apple.
Yeah.
And that's the gospel.
Or your palate matures.
Right. I understand what you're saying, but like, I think that is the point of salvation, right? Is to come to the acceptance of the defined gospel, which is there's only one way, right? Like, and that's where it starts.
Well, I don't know. I just have a hard time going being able to affirm those sentences, but yeah.
Well, I didn't say it. Jesus did.
Well, no, he says that he's the way.
Right. That's what I mean. I am the way, the truth, and the life.
Yeah. He is the way.
Me. I'm not saying that about me,
but who he is or how he is and how he interacts with everyone is vastly different.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's going to be,
and
Jesus,
that's what
Jesus
I mean.
himself, like, and obviously we believe the Trinity, right? So, but Jesus himself was a real man, died on a real cross, really rose again, really ascended into heaven. Like those are all physical things that Jesus did, and our interaction
Physical and
now,
metaphysical and everything else.
It's purely, not purely physical, but physical, because he was flesh and bone, you know. Yeah. But our interaction now comes through the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, you know, as he said before he ascended into heaven, is if I don't go, one greater than me can't come.
Sure.
And the reason, you know, that you see Jesus even say that is because the relationship that the apostles had with Jesus was a physical relationship, but the relationship that we have with the Spirit is a spiritual relationship that all of us can have.
It wasn't just a physical.
Well, it wasn't just a physical, but it was primarily based on that, because that's the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, right? Like, that's the separation. That Jesus was physical, so they had a physical relationship with him, and the Spirit. You see it in the book of Acts, is that as they receive the Spirit, their ministry changes drastically. So there is a very big difference between the relationship that they had with Jesus in person and the relationship that they have with the Holy Spirit.
That's like, that like breaks a bunch of my theological categories if I were to be like, yeah, that's true. Because like that almost separates Christ and his Spirit.
Yeah.
Which that's not a thing.
It's not a thing, but it is a thing.
Well, no, it's not. And because that's why I actually don't really like the word physical, because it actually betrays, this is getting super technical, but it actually betrays Neoplatonism. It actually ironically betrays like a sort of like a Greek heresy that. Because Christ coming in the flesh is actually not a statement about his sort of separation from the Godhead or
but if there isn't a separation or his ability as God to separate himself,
he can't say that's not.
Then how did God the Father turn his back on him when he was on the cross?
I don't think he did.
Why did he say that?
You mean
Jesus on the cross?
Eloi, Eloi, that whole thing?
My God, my God.
Yeah, Eloi, Eloi.
Yeah.
Lama Sabachthani. Yeah. Right.
So, I mean, I think that.
Well, it depends how you read that. If you read that like John Calvin, then yes, he's turning his back on.
I think it's one of the mysteries of something that we can't fully understand in a way. But you know, if we separate our soul from our body, we're dead, right? Like if we separate we're spirit, soul, body, right? Like any one of those three, we can't exist without the other.
Yeah, but those three don't exist separate from each other. You know what I mean?
They don't for us.
No, I don't think they do for any creature, like even down to like a mouse.
But my point is that God is different in us, and that the examples that we see in the Scripture, this is deep water.
This is so deep water.
It's like, you know, I'm keeping my head barely above the water, possibly.
I want you to drown.
I'm getting there. We're getting deeper than my.
To be honest with you, like if you actually make a mistake here theologically, this is why like actually like deep water theology is so important. If you make mistakes in Trinitarian and Christological theology, it actually renders like other areas of Christian life like very different. Like you can actually trace lines from Christology, making mistakes in Christology, to like the use of contraception or gay marriage or whatever. Like you can actually, and people do it all the time. You know, there's a real reason why Unitarianism and like the LGBT ideology perfectly works. It's actually logically consistent. Because if you your theological groundwork actually has real life consequences, and also it has consequences about like what do we understand ourselves to be as Christians in relationship to the world, and what are we the relationship between the Spirit and the flesh is, you know, and what happens when we then become God breathed by being in relationship to God in a salvific kind of way. Like all of these things have massive implications.
Well, so, and I mean,
anyway, that's why I keep going, in reaction to you, because I'm like, whoa, wait.
But the way that I would put it is what the scripture says, it says. And that's as deep as I go with it. And for like, until I have a reason to go further.
Sure.
Or God leads me further in that.
It's so interesting when
I think that there is, in the way that it's written, there is reason to believe that God separated himself for a time. And well, he didn't has that ability, because I mean the references that are there, that's what it says.
How could Christ send his spirit if he was separated from God?
That's what I'm saying. Is like, that's beyond the capability of understanding to be one and also be separated, right? Like that, those two things don't mesh. But the way that the scripture is written, that's what I mean. Like, because it also says in the Old Testament, no man can look upon God, right? Like, no man has seen the face of God. It says that. That's when Moses asked to see the face of God, and yet we people, the apostles, people all around Jesus saw the face of Jesus, but they're one and the same, right? So there is some sort of separation that is above our human understanding, and in order for us to be indwelt by the Holy Spirit, that's not.
It's almost the opposite. It's almost the opposite of what you're saying, actually, because like the incarnation, Christ, God taking human form, incarnating, that's actually the bridge, right? Yeah, that's what bridges the gap. So you're saying separating, and my Catholic brain is going, no, it's actually the opposite of separating. Christ becoming incarnate, the Word becoming flesh, right?
Yeah.
It's not that the Word like wore flesh. No, the Word became flesh.
Right.
That's crazier.
Right.
It's not like he put on the body like a prop.
Right.
No.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what you're saying. And I'm not saying Christ, Jesus was any less God.
Christ bridges the gap between us and the Father. Right.
I agree.
In this radical, metaphysically impossible thing that we couldn't ever conceive of. The most we could conceive of prior to the revelation of Jesus, the best that the human mind could come up with is in, I think it's Genesis 6 or whatever, and you see it in every mythology around the world, is that some divine being has sex with a woman and you create like Hercules, or whatever. Like that's the best we could conceive of, is like there's this sort of, and you sort of see this parallel in a way in Luke, in the overshadowing of the Spirit over Mary, right? You sort of see the same mythological insight play out, but it's in a way now that's radically different. You don't have half God, half man.
Right.
Jesus is not Hercules.
So yeah, to be clear,
really strange.
That's not at all like what I'm saying. Is that there's a separation in the fact that he's not holy God. Like, that's not what I mean.
Right.
I'm just saying that with what the scripture says, there's a mystery there in the way that God is able to be all Jesus and all God the Father and all the Spirit and all three all at once. But then it is separated for us in our understanding. Like there is, I mean, like, because and it could just be for our understanding, right?
Might be for your
understanding. God, well,
I'm just teasing.
All right. Well, if God has not separated his characteristics for specific purposes to accomplish, then there would be no reason to reference him in the three ways. Right? Like, so
there are
Jesus
three
was
persons.
here.
There are three.
That's what I mean. Is like there's some way that he's all three and yet he's also separate. And that I'm comfortable with.
Well, and
being
that's
like,
why-
oh, I don't know. He's separate, but he's all one. Like I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm not saying that there's a time where he's just like, oh yeah, I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy.
Well, we won't find the word separate anywhere.
Right, exactly.
And so that's actually like that's a non-starter biblically. That's a non-starter theologically. The best theology that I've ever heard is that they're in an intercommunion. They're actually an intercommunion of persons.
Yeah.
So they're not separate.
Right.
And they're actually a community.
Right. But the names do reference the differences of the job that he's doing.
Yeah. And,
I mean, like,
and you
that's
get into modalism and
very clumsy way of putting
That's
it,
right.
for sure.
Yeah.
But like it like there's a reason we have God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. Right? Like
ultimately
those
the reason
names,
is
it's not
ultimately the
separate.
reason is not because we have it's not because of our minds. The reason is because that's who God has revealed himself to be.
Yes, yeah.
And what he reveals about himself is that he's an intercommunion of persons. And to me, the reason that it's actually interesting on a human level, because in a way it's like, well, who cares like who God is in himself, right? Like, why do we need to know that? And then it's like, well, actually the reason that it's beneficial to know deep water Trinitarian like theological revelation and insight is because it actually, if we played that out in our lives, if we played out who God is, an intercommunion of persons in divine eternal love, if we played that out here, that's actually the same message that Jesus gives us. So in other words, if we love one another as Christ has loved us, it's because that's actually a reflection of the inner life of the Trinity. And so we're actually being divine. Right. We're actually exercising our divine mission, right. And so the who God is in his essence and what our mission is in its essence are actually the same thing. And so like, to me, that's why it's an interesting, it's an interesting, because that's actually what would generate real authentic community. You go back to like, well, how would we evangelize this community? Yeah. How would we bring people to Christ here? It's got to have something to do with that deep inner life of the Trinity. And for some reason, all you have to do is look around. It's not being communicated. Right. So,
yeah, I think it's definitely one of those parts of understanding that you can learn. I mean, it's really awesome to study the scripture in that way, where it's like, it is the living word of God, where all of it has a lesson to teach you in how you live this life. Yeah. I think it's a hard sell if we're going to reach people evangelistically to jump into that. That's why I say it's deep water, is like, well, where do you learn to swim? I was like,
well, depends.
Depends on who your dad is. Right?
Yeah. Did his dad throw you in? He just walk you into the kiddie pool with your, floaties on, or did he just throw you in the water?
Yeah. So
there are different dads.
There.
I'm not suggesting that this is a message.
Right. No,
what I'm suggesting is that this underpins a method. Yeah. And that I feel like our methodologies come actually from a different place theologically, and maybe even, and this would be me risking it, we can stop the conversation here, but maybe even theological error. That and it's not even error, but just maybe oversight. It's like theological oversight. It's like, well, we know who Jesus is, we know what he said, and and we define the gospel this way, and so we just go. Yeah. And it's like, and I guess for me, the reason why I tend to want to root myself in both the idea of working out your salvation in fear and trembling, and also this sort of Trinitarian insight, is because I actually think that the religion is metaphysically true and psychologically true, and so not just true at the level of sort of spirituality. Yeah.
Well, truth is truth.
But I think it transcends. I think it transcends all these categories. Truth. And so I actually think that if you were to truly understand someone,
Yeah.
and truly understand and know what their end is, you could actually help be that bridge.
I agree. I mean, there's truth to that, but I will go back to the woman at the well, right? Like if you look at, like there's benefit and there's calling to deep study of theology, right? Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely true.
I was going to make an ex-wife joke right there, but anyway, sorry.
Hey. Which one?
I don't know.
So
not ours.
It's if you look at the women at the well and all of the apostles who had spent almost 3 years with Jesus in his teaching, right? For 3 years, and he gets to the well, they all leave him to go find food to eat.
Yeah.
And then the woman at the well comes and he tells her the gospel. Very plain gospel. She believes he's God because he tells her about the ex-wife or the ex-husbands or the six husbands and one she's living with. And she's like, you must be God. So she has like this super simple understanding. Like he tells her the gospel. He told me everything that I did. And she brings all of the people from the town, and it says, and many believed that day. Sure. And the apostles come back at that point, like right before all of these people come back, and they say, what's going on? Like, why? Like, we're just hungry. Like, aren't you going to eat? They're focused on whatever. And they've been sitting under his teaching for all this time. And this woman who barely understands anything except for Jesus is God goes in, and many are saved. And Jesus says to them, the fields are white unto harvest, but the laborers are few. And so like we can get stuck on the perfect treehouse, or we can build one out of pallets and, send it. And we do need to understand theology. So I'm not discrediting our study, because the Bible says in 2 Timothy or 1 Timothy, whatever, study to show yourself approved, right? Sure. That's Timothy, I think. Anyway, it's in the Bible. It's got to be true. So we're never supposed to give up on study, but we reach people with the gospel. And if they aren't ready yet, we're planting seeds. And if they're halfway ready, we're watering. And then, but like God gives the increase. So our responsibility, it falls on our level of knowledge. So if you are studying. So
yeah, but again, to me, like what you just did there, gosh, I hate being like contrarian, but like to me, what you just did there is you took a parable that for me anyway is rich in at least two ways. In other words, I understand it to be rich in two ways, although it's probably rich in many more. The woman at the well, I could probably think of a few more, but the two that are standing out right now is so you took that parable and then you reconstrained it back in through the saying like, well, he preached the gospel or whatever, which I don't think is true. I think what happened there is that as you define it, that's not what happened.
What is
he didn't say I'm God and I'm going to die for your sins and aren't you lucky, blah blah blah, here's a tract. Like that's not what he said. He said, give me a drink of water, right? So that's fascinating to me. Like that whole interaction is fascinating, that the God of the universe, the divine word, the one who hovered over the waters, right? Is asking for a drink of water. Like, and what does that symbolize given the relationship that she will be revealed to have had with men? That these men have done things to her and taken from her, right? And he's now asking for something from her too, but then he's flipping it and saying, I actually have something to offer you. And but it's not what you'd find in a tract. The tract that you hand out is not the same content. It's the same reference, but it's not the same content as what he's gonna do with her. Right. So anyway, that's just for me why like that parable is interesting, but like why I always like come up against.
Well, it's when I teach anything, and I'm not teaching necessarily, but when I look at any parable, I guess it's not constraining it to one lesson.
Yeah.
So I'm not constraining it to the lesson.
Well, it feels like
But
you're
if she
trying to put it through the sieve of again, this sort of like simple gospel narrative, like believe on the Lord Jesus and
The gospel is pretty simple.
Right. That's where you and I have that contention.
You can understand it, but like it starts simple. It's an apple, like it starts simple. If the gospel was complicated, then
it's
then
not
people
simple versus
of low
complicated.
intellect wouldn't understand it.
It's not simple versus complicated. It's other people's ability to enter into the gospel doesn't define the gospel. Right?
No, the gospel is the gospel.
Simple
right?
people can approach Christ through their simplicity.
It's like
but that has nothing to do with whether the gospel is multivalent or simple or anything. Like that's just seeing something one way.
Well, so
that's all.
She believed.
She did, yeah. Yeah.
It seems
believed
in
him.
It seemed pretty simple.
Well, she believed in him.
Right.
Yeah.
So it seems pretty simple.
But what does she believe about him?
That he was the Lord.
Well, I mean,
as she confessed, right? Like,
yeah,
that's what she believed. So
what
it's like,
what does it say exactly? I don't know.
I can't remember exactly what it says, but it says she believed, right? So it's like we don't have to fully. That's why the verse that
because he told her things
right
that he couldn't know,
right. I mean,
so it's actually a manifestation of God's omniscience or something like
that. There's no way he could know. You could look at the Roman centurion. It's the same idea, right?
But what sort of like enables his predictions to be, or his not predictions, but his knowledge to be efficacious, I think, is the glass of water.
Yeah, maybe.
I like it's not
like,
God doesn't do anything.
I'm sure it'll preach. I'm not saying it's not a lesson. I'm not saying there's not a lesson there. I'm just talking about like the gospel is simple.
I guess.
And then it's deep.
I don't see it.
It never ends. That's why the verse that you referenced.
Well, it's like calling the ocean simple.
It is. It's
right, but it's not. It's this incredibly multivalent, vast thing that we haven't even like begun to fathom. 100%. We don't even know all the creatures down there.
100%.
So like, it's like, it's simple to those who want to understand it simply.
Right.
But that's the nature of reality. But it's also
not wrong. Like when you take a 3, 4, 5-year-old down and you're like, what's that? And they're like, the ocean. They're not wrong.
I guess maybe where I'm coming from in this is that
that's a good example.
Okay.
I like that example.
I guess for me, it's like, I'm interested in people for whom the gospel is simple would actually not help them come to Christ.
Well, so say that again.
I'm interested in reaching people that if you just said, here's a tract, the gospel is simple, believe on the Lord Jesus and you be saved, wouldn't actually help them come to Christ. I'm interested in helping people come to Christ who would be turned off by that.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm actually the one with all the ammo here. If you look at all the parables, Jesus doesn't approach people in the same way.
Right.
So Jesus approaches people in 1,000 different ways. Or many, many, many different ways.
Yeah.
And so if we were to actually embody Christ, if we were to become little Christs and be, whatever, like if we were to go and do what he asked us to do, which I do agree with you on that we would actually, to the extent that he gave us the power to do it, we would approach people in the ways that they need to be approached.
You have to meet people.
Right. And
the ocean
that's
touches many coasts, but it's still the ocean.
Yeah, but it contains a variety of fish and you know what I mean? It's like, so it's interesting. So when Jesus tells the disciples to throw the net over, they catch the multitude of fish. Like they catch 153 fish, right? That represents a big variety of kinds of fish. And so, to me, like that's what I'm interested. I'm interested in throwing the net out into the deep.
I hear you.
And because I'm actually not negating what you're saying, because I actually agree with you. There are a lot of people for whom the precise message that you're delivering would actually help them to come to Christ. But I also think that there is probably a much larger group of people for whom that wouldn't.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in, for whatever reason.
Well, so I think
I'm interested in that other group.
The danger of that is that regardless of the person, of whatever their background is, whoever they are, however intellectual they are, however not intellectual, I don't know what the word of not intellectual
Stupid.
would be, is that like until we come to the end of ourselves, we cannot accept that our righteousness is only through Jesus.
Right. And to be honest with you, simple people would probably have an easier time coming to the end of themselves because there's not much there.
There you go.
You know, which is great.
You heard it here first.
I mean, that's wonderful.
That's why.
But I'm interested in those pieces of shit motherfuckers who, you know, forgive me for swearing, but like who are way more complicated.
Yeah. But
who are too complicated for Christ.
There's a reason logical and intellectual.
I like the hard cases.
Not the same word as faith.
I agree, but like word. If you look, I mean, so two groups of people came to this will preach. Yeah. Two groups of people came to Christ when he was born in Bethlehem, right? The shepherds and the wise men, right? So Christ can bridge gaps.
Absolutely.
Right. And so that's sort of what I'm interested in. And you're talking about, I mean, and I'm not saying the shepherds are stupid, but like, you know, but they clearly didn't spend their lives studying There's
a reason
books.
The example.
Yeah, I think so.
100%.
And it's like, and the mind can also be a fetish and an idol.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in people who for whatever reason, whether it's pride of life or, you know, that have put up these barriers and that are more complex, because God makes complex creatures too.
But when Jesus preached, he never changed the gospel to fit anybody.
You're using the word the gospel as though he you know, it doesn't make any sense. You're using Jesus didn't preach the gospel.
He was the gospel.
He is the word. Right. He doesn't preach the gospel. Right. Okay. He manifests himself to the world. So in a variety of different ways, depending on who he's interacting with. When he's, you know, I think the best chance that the Pharisees had at salvation was him calling them a brood of vipers, which is why he did it. Yeah. You know, I think the best chance of him reaching the rich young man was to tell that guy to give up everything. He didn't tell the woman at the well to give up everything, you know, maybe 6 guys, but or the one guy that she was with now. But that's because, you know,
that's because every one of those people had to come to the end of themselves.
That's right. And I guess
she was at the end of herself.
Right. And I guess
she was getting water in the middle of the day. She was pretty low. If she wasn't there in the cool morning, she was there in the middle of the day. She knew
she was under the hot light.
She was
being investigated.
She was not in a good standing. Right. She knew that she had nothing to bring.
So to me, that's the real interesting thing is if you truly understand someone else. And I think people are far more complicated today than they probably were prior to the complete infiltration of the internet. Because now we have thousands and thousands and thousands of more ideas floating around in our brains than we've ever had before.
Yeah. Well, I agree with what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Before we got confused about what the gospel is.
I'm not confused about what the gospel is. I just don't think it's simple.
Jesus said, with faith like a child.
Sure.
You know, and that applies to everybody. It's belief.
But children, but again, I feel like, I don't know why. I don't know what it is in the for you about the word simple or whatever. That's also not, you're not going to find that in the scriptures. I don't think.
Yeah. No, I'm not quoting a verse saying simple.
Simple. I mean,
I'm just saying it's not. It's probably
the word simple in the
gift,
Bible, but
it's the gift of eternal life, right? Like it's the gift.
Yeah,
of God.
for me, I see that as like this multivalent, ever expanding thing for eternity.
It's the ocean.
It goes all the way up and all the way down,
as deep as you want to make it, and hopefully,
right?
We want to get in the deep water once we believe, but first we have to know it's the ocean before we get in it.
Sure.
Like you got, and that's why I say it's simple. It's simple to teach a kid the ocean's the ocean. Sure. But then it never ends. And that's the life. That's the fear and trembling. Yeah. That's the beautiful part of it, is that our relationship with Jesus gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
Forever. And I mean, forever, literally, not just forever in this life, but forever in eternity.
What would, in your mind, what would help can bring about the conversion of someone who is highly educated and was like a fashion photographer or an artist? Like, what would bring about, because that person ought to hear the gospel.
Yeah, for sure.
But my guess is like,
what could I do, or what in life?
No. I'm just like sort of like thinking through it. Not what could you do, but just like
use your examples from the scripture was the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the rich young ruler. This person is no different. Is that until they come to the end of themselves, what's going to bring them to the end of themselves? Because what is the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, pride of life? Like, it's all, the reason Jesus called them the pit of vipers is because that's like the worst thing that they could be in their eyes and their understanding of the Old Testament.
Yeah. Snakes,
right? Like snakes are the worst. The rich young ruler thought he was bringing something to the table. He's like, I'm so good. I'm going to bring my riches. I'm going to bring my accomplishments. I'm going to bring all of these things to the table because you want me on your team, Jesus, because I'm good. And Jesus says, no, I am good. And so who that transcends time, is that we all need to come to the end of ourselves to become a believer in the gospel, which is, I use the word on purpose, which is that the righteousness of Jesus is the only thing that will get us through heaven's gates. If we think we bring anything to the table, it's like, dude, this morning, I can't even explain. I prayed recently about just understanding some things a little bit. Yeah. And the verse that says, I prophesied in your name, I did miracles in your name. He says, depart from me, I never knew you.
Right.
I.
Right.
I. And it's like, we can do things that in our mind accomplish things for the kingdom. But those aren't what let us in the gates of heaven. We have to come to a zero.
No, it's an acceptance of it. It's sure.
We have to start at that zero. It's like, we're not, there's nothing we bring to the table except for our sin. When we trade our eternal thirst for a glass of water from Jesus, it's like, whoa, why was I hanging on to this thirst for this world and pleasure and comfort? And I want all of this world. And then we finally get to the point where everything's vanity, or our lives crash out and we are at zero or below zero in the pits of despair, and we find the solid rock to stand on. That's the gospel. That's what it is Jesus gives us the hope. He gives us the peace. Romans 5:1. We have peace with God through Jesus Christ because of that. Only that. And that's why I say it's the ocean. Like you said, the ocean. It is simple in the beginning, and then it never ends. I couldn't agree with you more about that.
Sure.
But it doesn't matter how intellectual you are or not. It's like, you have to understand the simplicity, because you can't go into Mariana's Trench unless you understand what the harbor is here first. You have to go that direction. Like you can't get into those deep waters, and it's a fun debate.
It's an interesting, I don't know why the word simple is just not, it doesn't strike me as like, that doesn't strike me as like, as holding the truth of it. So for some reason, I don't know why.
Yeah. I mean,
the simple gospel. I think that might be like a tradition from like preaching or something.
Pick a different word.
Well, I agree with like all of the characterizations that you're giving. It's just an interesting.
So don't say simple.
I just wonder why. I guess for me, because it leaves out the complex.
No, it's not. You have to go through.
I mean, everybody's gonna everybody's going to come to.
It is as complex as anything in this world to have a relationship with God through Jesus, right? That's the deep water. And that's beautiful. It's wonderful. I read the same verse this morning that I've read 100 times, and I'm like, oh, wow. This is
new.
This is totally
Never
different,
new.
and it's so complex. But it has to start at the acceptance of faith with little children, little children. It has to start there.
Cool, man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Ready to go get some lunch?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Thank you for coming on. And we'll do some like promo stuff if you want. And we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right.
Interesting.
All right, there it is. Let's see, my computer crashed.